Welcome to the Oakland Mayor and Council meeting, March 8th, 2023. Roll call.
Mayor Schwager,
Here.
Councilman Saliani,
Here.
Councilman Kamala,
Here.
Councilman McCann, Councilman Pignatelli,
Here.
Councilman Slazinski,
Here.
Councilman Talamini.
Here.
No, I reversed the order of the agenda. I got to just be so confused. This meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Law duly announced, advertised, and posted in the municipal building. The meeting will adjourn no later than 10 p.m. unless a majority of the council members that are present vote to extend the time. At this time, I ask you to stand, pledge your allegiance, remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Michelle. Thank you. Please sit. I'm going to start my report by announcing, in case you did not know, even though it was on the news all day today, March 8th, International Women's Day. Woohoo! That's why I'm wearing something with a little purple. I was told purple is the color. What?
I think blue.
They told me, the women told me purple. There's a little purple in here, and there's a little blue.
You're covered.
You're coming.
And thank you for your very nice post on Facebook to all the women. Yeah, that was very nice. So, speaking of thank yous, I want to thank all the volunteers who produced, acted, and created in Flow Follies this year. This was the 37th year of Flow Follies. I mean, it's a shock that it was 37 years, and it encompasses the 3 towns, the Flow area, and 2 schools, and the people of the 3 towns working together, and that to me is the best part. You have the residents, you have children, you have parents of the 3 towns working together. No one cares what town you're from. No one cares your economic situation. No one cares what political party you are. No one cares what you think about. But everybody's working together, and all the money that's made goes to giving scholarships to seniors graduating from both high schools. And to me, that is just amazing. And I, in fact, participated in the one scene with mayors from Wyckoff. I sit next to Tom Madigan, the Wyckoff mayor, and usually Rudy Boonstra, the Franklin Lakes mayor, couldn't make it this year. But we're all working together, and I'm shouting out to the school board members. It would be nice if the regional school board members participated in Flow Follies. That would have been really special. In the past, when it first started, not only were it the parents, but you had administrators, you had teachers, you had school board members, you had everybody participating. And you had to compete to be able to act on the stage. That's how many people signed. It would be nice to see more people participate, because it's for a good cause, graduating senior scholarship. So that's my announcement for the day on that. Upcoming events, speaking of fundraising, Sunday, March 12th, Women's Club, not the Women's Club, I'm sorry, the Mothers Club of Oakland is the Harlem Magic Masters versus the Oakland Magic Basketball. It's a fundraiser. Again, the Mothers Club of Oakland raises money to give money for the children. It's for the children of Oakland. So hopefully we'll see you there. It's at Valley Middle School, and I wrote down, I think it starts at 2 o'clock. Another date, April 22nd, is a styrofoam collection. Maybe somebody will talk about that. One of the councilmen. Then on May 27th, Shredding Day. And we're going to be a little more organized this time.
No, don't look at me.
You're not doing it? Oh,
I'm
I'm looking. We'll come up with a more organized plan for shredding, but you have to be an Oakland
You know why
resident.
it's going to be organized? Because it's on a holiday weekend and nobody's going to be here. That's why.
Oh, is that why? Okay. Who picked the date, Mr. Kunz?
No, look at me.
Okay.
No,
All
I think it's sort of based on the availability of the people involved.
right, well then, you won't have a long line, it'll be good. Then on, and June 9th to June 11th is the Arts Council, right? The Arts,
June 9th through
11th.
Yeah, Arts in Oakland.
Right. Okay, so I see somebody here from the reserve. She's looking straight at me about Patriots Way Bridge. An update. Thank you, Assemblyman Ott. He wrote a letter. I am working with Congressman Pasquale. I email him every other day. I am in contact with the governor's office, pushing for the DOT. And between the three, we're hoping to get some money, but I've told you that whatever, the bridge has to be done. So, but it would be nice if we can get some money. But we are working on it behind the scenes, but it's happening. Not giving up. You know me, I don't give up. We had a meeting on Monday, if anybody's here from the Park Avenue, Riverside Drive, or Center Street, with parking issues when it snows. We met with the residents, some of the residents, with the police chief and our traffic safety officer about the situation with parking. And the streets are narrow, and unfortunately, we have to come up with a way, bless you, we have to come up with a way that the residents can park. Luckily, this year, we only had one snow, but if it does snow on Saturdays.
Saturday.
Saturday.
1 to 3.
It is,
1 to 3.
or rain, we don't
No,
know. We're sending out a letter to all the residents. We met over there to look for alternate ways that they can park their vehicle. Because it's not that we don't want you to park, we just can't get the plows through if you park. And so that's what that's all about. So we are working on that. We had a Bush Plaza Park meeting, and I'm sure Councilman Saliani will speak about that. Tomorrow night, Planning Board, we will be talking about the downtown streetscape without planner on the Planning Board. That's tomorrow night. And Chamber of Commerce, this is very exciting. The Chamber of Commerce has been revitalized, reactivated. Thank you, Lindsay, for taking on the chairmanship of this. In fact, tonight there's a meeting, and I'll leave here and try and get over to the chamber meeting. I told them we have a council meeting. I sponsored a breakfast last Monday, inviting the chamber members, and we have a lot of enthusiasm, and the enthusiasm because it's so important for the businesses and the community to work together. And I spoke about Bush Plaza, and there are many businesses who would like to help with the donations, sponsorships, but we will work together. And that is it. I'm keeping it short because we have a budget presentation tonight, and at this time I'll open to the public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hello.
Hello, Mayor. Mike
Name?
Guadagnino, 34 Harper Street. A little disappointed there's an empty chair at the council, but I'm going to say what I'm going to say because I want it for the record. And as following Robert's rules, I will address the chair. So I really want to address the misrepresentation, the continued misrepresentation of the Cannabis Committee, as well as the Cannabis Ordinance. Now, our job in the committee was not to dissect the chemistry of cannabis. It was not to look at the physiological effects of cannabis, either positive or negative. Nor was it to add extra components to an already well-rounded committee, which you put together a well-rounded committee on purpose, to add extra components that would be unnecessary. It also wasn't our job to challenge the state law or to tell adults how to or not to live their lives. I mean, this is America. There's freedom, especially with something that's legal. It also isn't our job to look at cherry-picked data and cherry-picked Google research or look for alternate cherry-picked research to counter it. Because quite frankly, Mayor, anybody with a science degree would tell you that it is completely unscientific to make policy based on cherry-picked information. Now, New Jersey voted for legalization, and Oakland voted 62% in favor of legalization. So our job as a committee was to look at how we can make recommendations to the council and to the town on how this new law can benefit the town, and with all the protections and safeguards. And as it was well communicated, we spoke with the police. Actually, it was August 11, 2021. They were at our meeting, and
Yes.
the council unanimously voted in favor of the ordinance. This ordinance will offer passive income and relief to the taxpayers. It is, these types of small businesses will be industrial white envelopes. There's not going to be any retail. These will not be visible to the town. They are not going to be nuisances to the town at all. And any continued misdirection, misinterpretation of the committee or the ordinance is nothing more than an attempt to change the paradigm to fit a specific political or personal narrative. That's it. Now, Mayor, you have spoken several times about quality of life issues here I know you're addressing, such as the water, the roads, sewers, downtowns. And you also said we have a way to help the taxpayers with this passive income. And instead, rather we're wasting our time, not taking advantage of this, which the last couple of months were basically bi-monthly, we were having a bi-monthly Jerry Springer show. So what we could do, we could move forward. We could start to move forward, and the first thing to move forward would be to untable the motion for the small businesses that wishes to work here in town, where we can grab 2% gross income on their small business, and it help it'll get rid of effectively get rid of a lawsuit and help the taxpayers. And again, we have impending expenses. We're going to find out in this budget how much more impending expenses we're going to have, and we have an opportunity for some passive income to give us some relief. But the obstructionism that is happening right here is going to do nothing but hurt the Oakland taxpayer. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you very much. My name is Dean Trevisani. I live at 207 Ramapo Valley Road.
You're still there.
And I'm still there, yes I am. And thank you for what you just shared, because I kind of have something that's going to kind of part of both of what you just said about the taxes, as well as some of the things. Now, my wife, unfortunately, couldn't be here. She's the science nerd that I love, and but she gave me some stuff for the council here. First of all, she said to me, and she made notes for me because, you know, she needs to. But the thing is that what I have here is a full scientific journal article as opposed to a search. All right, and the full scientific article that I have, and I'm going to give you each one of these that you can look at, is basically you can research it or search it on Google only if you click scholarly articles. Then you can find all the articles that you want that are actually scientific journals. Okay, they're very long, they're very detailed. They usually start with an abstract or a summary, and then they go on and on. I have a whole bunch. This is what I'm going to hand you guys. I have a whole bunch, and this is regarding the water issue, the PFAS issue, okay? And I'm going to give this to you, but there's a lot more journals, and this is only about a tenth of what my wife has found on the internet as far as scholarly articles. And I just want you all to be aware that this stuff is really serious. I mean, it's a lot more serious than was in anything, and I think we rode that train long enough, okay? And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that we have made progress.
Yes.
Since, and I believe that there's some new things happening, and things have started moving forward.
Yes, we have.
And I'm really grateful for that, and I appreciate the work you guys are doing. I mean, I will tell you, reverse osmosis filter that I just put in my house, my water tastes a lot better. It really does. And that's not bull. The second thing I wanted to talk about having to do with taxes. I own a small business here in town. I know a lot of people in town. And over the past 2 weeks, I just was told by several commercial business owners or commercial landowners that their taxes, their assessments have gone up 25%. Now, this is just what I've been told. Now, I'm very grateful, and hopefully this doesn't hurt me, but my taxes went down about $100, which no increase, no, you know, whatever. I'm grateful for that. My concern is that because of this potential increase or the assessment, new assessments, I'm a small business owner. I lease an office space that ultimately I'm responsible for paying that, or a part of that. I'm shared with the other people that are leasing the property, okay? So now that $100 is out the window and I'm paying probably 3 times that amount in the increase that it's gonna cost me to rent a retail store, not a retail space, but an office space. Not only that, my concern is how many other businesses are gonna leave this town because of the increase? How many other businesses? One of the business owners that I talked to, he just got permission to expand his office space or his warehouse. But he's afraid to even go and get an attorney to contest the tax increase because he's afraid, you know, that maybe they'll take away the permits or whatever. And I know that's not the case, I know that. But you know what? But this is something that other people are scared of, all right? And not everybody knows to contest the tax or the tax increase. We need to
Well, the
figure.
tax appeal.
The tax appeal, I apologize.
That's okay.
So the thing is that, like I said, you know, this is why I usually bring my wife with me. She corrects me all the time. But the fact
I'll
of
take
the
her place.
thank you. The fact of the matter is, we really need to do something about this. And if, in fact, something like this, and I am dead set against marijuana use. There's no question about it. I'm against it. But it's legal, and if there's things that can be done to reduce the cost of living in Oakland, I'm all about it, as long as it doesn't hurt the people in Oakland. Okay? That's my, you know, that's my only thing about that. But if in fact those the assessments go through, 25% increase is going to hurt our town more than it's going to help us. That's for darn sure. Because eventually, if those businesses leave, then the townspeople are going to be responsible to pay the taxes. And I don't want that either, because the taxes are high enough. And the other thing is, I'm tired of people saying, well, it's higher in another town. I really don't care about any of the other towns, and I don't want to hear it. All right? This is the only town I'm worried about. I've lived in this town for 58 years. You know that. Again, we were talking about playing soccer.
Not me, my son.
Your nephew, I played soccer with him here in Oakland when I was 8 years old, okay? So the fact of the matter is I love Oakland. We got a great town here. We got a great group of people. The community is wonderful, okay? The athletics and sports are wonderful. The arts are wonderful. Like you just said, the Faux Follies, Flo Follies, it's wonderful. My daughter participated in that when she was younger. So I love everything about this, and I don't want to have to leave this, especially when I retire, just because I got to pay taxes. Thank you.
This is a nice surprise.
Good evening. I'm not here to talk about cannabis.
The bridge.
Michelle Eunice, 2 Rockledge. I'm standing up here tonight, yes, to speak about the Patriots Way Bridge. The Patriots Way Bridge is the only 2-lane access into and out of the Ramapo River Reserve Association and is in utter disrepair with structural deficiencies. Over the past 8+ years, there have been meetings and discussions regarding its replacement. It started out as a $1 million project and has now escalated to an over $8 million project. The borough secured funding for approximately $1.2 million in grants several years ago. As residents, we have been promised on several occasions that we are going to get a new bridge, and I believe that. However, the question really is when, and at what risk to the residents of Oakland. The bridge was inspected in the summer of 2022, and at the last council meeting, Borough engineer referenced that the DOT was going to re-inspect the bridge and may be recommending a possible 2 or 3 ton weight restriction on the bridge. Has there been an update from the DOT? How long will weight restrictions be in effect? Until repairs are made or until the bridge is replaced? The residents need to understand that a 2 to 3 ton weight restriction includes their large SUVs, their pickup trucks, and the like. We have had weight restrictions in the past on that bridge, and they weren't monitored. And if you speak to the Oakland Police, they'll tell you they don't have the resources to monitor the weight restriction on the bridge, nor the emergency access points, which are literally 1 lane wide. The redirection of the traffic will cause a severe safety and security risk to not only the residents of Ramapo River Reserve and their visitors, but to our neighbors on Glen Gray, as well as our neighbors in the Truman-Lenape area, with the narrow roads, no sidewalks for walkers, bicyclists, baby strollers, dog walkers, etc. The Truman Bridge is possibly in worse condition than the Patriots Way Bridge, and will bear this additional truck and vehicle traffic, and again, for how long? So I'd like to ask the question, is this project what the industry would call shovel-ready? Or in layman's terms, are we ready to move forward and just waiting for funding? Is that a safe and accurate question? I am very concerned about the safety, security, and the impact this will have on the residents of Oakland. It is dangerous. I just hope that we are not waiting for a tragedy to occur while we find funding to move forward on this project. A price cannot be put on a life. Thank you.
Michelle, can I get
Yes.
a copy of what you said?
Absolutely.
Because you summarized what I've been saying to our congressman, our governor, and our assemblyman, who wrote a great letter to DOT.
Yes.
But what you said is coming from you because you're a resident involved. So if I could get a copy, I'll get it right over to them tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Mayor, Frank Pentema, 6 Mountain Lakes Road. Just a couple of points tonight. I wanted to find out if the resident who spoke at the end of the February 8th meeting, who got yelled at by the councilman who shall not be named, received an apology. Do we know?
She's shaking her head no.
Oh, you got nothing? Okay. I mean, I formally request that an apology is made to her, not only verbally at this meeting, but she should get something in writing, because that treatment of a resident is beyond the pale. Wrong. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the lawsuit. So I don't know how many residents really are aware of the lawsuit. I will say since the last meeting, I've probably had 30 people approach me about what's going on with marijuana. A few asking, I hear we might get sued, and I said, no, we are getting sued. So confirming we are being sued for $6.8 million because we have not untabled the motion to take a simple up or down vote to decide what we're going to do with an already approved ordinance that's on the books. So to put some context for people with the numbers, $6.8 million judgment, you don't bond that, you lose it, right? And that's $1,400 on the average house in 1 year. We have to pay for it 1 year. Now, of course, we have insurance, you'll have deductible, but that's not the way to be looking at this, because if any of you guys are telling me, well, we have a deductible and it will be covered, and they were telling me that's how we do risk management for this town, then you all have to go, because that's not how you manage risk. You don't just buy insurance and say, let's throw caution to the wind and do what we got to do. So this is serious stuff. And this council, even tonight, could take action to untable that motion and take an up or down vote. And let's get it done. Let's have the courage to do the right thing. If you want to vote no, vote no. If you want to vote yes, vote yes. But let's get this rolling. It's ridiculous that we're incurring money, we the residents, unnecessarily. You know, you had a residents here all talking about tax issues. We've got crumbling infrastructure all around us. You know, the 2 bridges. We've got road issues.
Element Brook.
We've got, thank you, the brook. You know, that's money, that's debt. And approving this agreement, which still, now this company would still have to go back to the state to get their formal licensing, would allow us to generate money that would actually help pay that debt service, that future debt service. So why we're fighting around because one person has an opinion to do it, then he can vote no. But he's not even here tonight. He's probably at band practice for all I know. We've really got to, you know, this is serious stuff. We really got to move forward and get this rolling. I mean, you know, Pat's talked about this ad nauseum. You've talked about it ad nauseum. It's time to untable it and take a straight up or down vote. Let's stop hiding around this stuff. You guys are causing us pain and force us into a lawsuit that didn't need to be. Thank you.
My goodness. Matt Goodrich, 72 Hiawatha. Good evening. So really, I'm actually glad Councilman McCann isn't here because I really want to address the other 5 of you. You know, so for the past 2 meetings, I've literally watched this man defame other councilmen, the mayor, residents, and you guys just sit on your hands and you do nothing. You just allow him to keep going, which makes you weaker than him. I don't get it. I'm not sure what John McCann has over you, but he's got something. You know, spine up. You know, take a motion, make a motion to censure the man. I mean, really. I mean, he's completely off the rails. I was kind of hoping when this started tonight, he wasn't here, that maybe he took my advice in the last meeting and resigned. But I guess I would have heard about that already. You know, I mean, but it just seems like you guys do whatever he wants. Whatever John says, he's like the puppet master, and here's you guys. You know, stop. You're leaders of the freaking town. Be leaders. You know, you're probably the leaders in your house, right? You guys are probably all, I mean, I know some of you personally. Some of you own businesses, you're successful, you have families. The bone in the middle of your back, that's your spine. Use it. You know, I don't know what he has over you, but it's 1 vote. I could probably poll this entire audience, and you'll lose this many votes if you keep siding with him. So if you plan on running for re-election or not, you're gonna get primaried, 1. He's gonna get recalled, all right? Just man up, please. Because this is absolutely embarrassing. The fact that I spent time in that committee, that Mike and Frank were, the mayor and Pat, and you guys all voted unanimously to approve this ordinance, and here we are, still talking about it, now getting sued. You know, it always seems like we don't want to spend money or do anything until it becomes an emergency, like the Patriots Way Bridge, right? So it was 1.2 million at first. We have the money for that. Now it's 8 million. You know, and we're hoping that we get money from the government. But if we don't, then what? Then we're going to pay 10 million out of our own pockets for? I mean, at some point, you just got to draw the line and say, you know, got to bite the bullet, and we're just going to fix it. Is what it is. I mean, I do the same thing in my house. I replace my hot water heater before it blows up. I don't want to spend the money, but I'd rather it not blow up. I mean, just, he's not here tonight. Make the motion, untable it, censure him. You know, I mean, Mr. Gilson, I know that you're a new attorney, but I mean, you guys fired an attorney that was here for 21 years that did admirable work to bring in Mr. McCann's attorney. You know, Mr. McCann, I'm assuming, forced Mr. Talamini to move over there so he could sit next to Mr. Gilson. You know, like, I mean, this isn't 6th grade anymore. I mean, for the love of God, you guys are running a borough. You're running a municipality. I mean, really.
Hi.
Are you giving us more history about you?
No, haven't inhaled for a while.
Oh, okay.
Always 2 hours.
I
We
might
need your
some.
name and address.
Name 187 West Oakland Ave. When will this be done? Because I'd like to
What
know.
would be done?
When will this be untabled? So that these guys can get their business
All right.
going.
Well,
See
it's not a
this?
debate, but just so you know the rules of borough form of government, I don't have a vote unless it's a tie. So a motion has to be made by a councilman, has to be seconded on a table, just so you know procedure. A motion has to first be made to untable, then it has to be second and voted on. Once a motion to table is made and second, all discussion stops and they voted. And this council all voted after John, I think it was John McCann who made the motion, was it Eric who seconded, somebody seconded, and then they all voted to table. So it's been sitting on the
That's not
table.
correct.
What?
There was the vote was 4-2.
Oh, what's up?
The vote was 4-2.
Oh, I apologize. Who voted not to table?
Pat Pignatelli and myself.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, Pat.
Okay.
It's been so long already, you know, and a couple of times we tried to bring up the motion to untable and it was not successful. So someone has to make a motion to untable, someone has to second, and it has to be voted. Then it has to be as a motion. But it's not on the agenda tonight, so I don't even think we have the right to even can do that tonight. Can we?
You can take it off the table with a 2/3 majority, so with 5 people here, you need 4 votes.
4 votes to untable. Can you vote then, if it's not on the agenda?
At a regularly scheduled noticed meeting, except for an ordinance or something else that requires specific notice, yes, you can vote.
I wasn't aware it was still on the table. I thought at the end of the calendar year, if it's on the table, it does.
So can we do that tonight?
I do not have the power as the mayor of a borough form of government to make the motion.
But
It would
these
have
guys
to be
do.
someone from the council.
I'm not aware that it's on the table.
It's still on the table.
Doesn't it die with the calendar year?
As a resolution,
It was a table,
you could reintroducing it and untabling it would have the same effect, so it's really, it wouldn't matter.
so it's just to untable it.
Again, I'm saying I don't think it's tabled. I don't think it's there. I think because it's a new council, every calendar year.
But the
you
same council
reorganize.
tabled it.
You
No, it's a new
reorganize.
council.
But it
But
can be
you
reintroduced.
reorganize.
You reintroduced it.
It can be reintroduced,
But
that's what I'm hearing.
So I'm just, I don't think it's tabled. I think
Somebody
it's
make a
not
motion.
there.
Somebody
I
So
don't
make a
think it's-
motion, somebody make a motion.
Please.
But right now, we're still open to the public, so it would have to be after we close to the public.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
want this done.
You got your tax bill, you're
Yeah.
holding it up?
Yeah. $2,000. That is outrageous. Have you seen my home? Needs a roof, needs trees removed. First thing you notice when you pull in the driveway is it needs one. I need a sidewalk. My kitchen's from 1950. Who came up with a $2,000 increase? We need these guys. It's not that whether we want it or not, we need them. We need the tax dollars. Okay, Dan can't be here tonight because he was in Las Vegas. But he had brought up a very good thing. To a lot of towns down south are discounting senior citizens and handicapped people 50% of the school taxes. Why can't we do that here?
Because it's state statute.
So how do we get it passed through the state?
The legislature.
Not here.
The legislature.
Okay,
Senator or Assemblyman.
all right. Yeah, I'll do that. The $6 million that we have to pay these guys, is that not considered a frivolous lawsuit? Because it's against the law. The state says they can do it, the ordinance says they can do it. What are we doing? What are we doing? You guys are in charge. I don't want to pay these taxes. I'm a retired civil servant.
Wait till you watch the 2023 proposed budget.
You know what? Eventually, the well goes dry. Then what do we do? Think about it.
Are you part of the senior freeze?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, last year, my taxes went down. I was not entitled to the senior freeze because it went down $20. But I have applied for the senior freeze. I have applied for the anchor program. You know, I'm collecting Social Security and a tiny little pension. I've tried to sell the house twice. My best offer was $190,000. I can come up with, I have a list, I think, of 15 homes that is under $300,000 that can't be sold. Nobody wants to come here, nobody wants to pay the taxes. We have to do something. And you know, you guys are put up there to handle this. Please, help us.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm back. Second bite of the apple. Frank, Pentama 6 Mountain Lakes Road. Novel idea. Borough Tony says you could untable it, right? So let's untable it tonight. And if one of you wants to vote no, let it be a 2-2 tie. The mayor will do the right thing. She knows what's right for this community. She'll break the tie. And you guys don't have to have blood on your hands, if that's what the problem is. Right? So let's do it.
Yeah.
You can untable it. One of you guys decide not to vote, so you 2 vote yes, 2 vote no. We know what the mayor will do. And then you all can not worry about who was right, who was wrong. All right? And then we do the right thing for the community.
It's 5
Thank
council.
you.
Yeah, he's saying one of you abstain.
I'm saying when you take the vote, one of you can abstain.
You can bring up
Plan
any
ahead.
issue
Wait,
at a public meeting, you could pass a resolution. The only thing you cannot do is an ordinance that would need to be passed on a second reading.
It's already
You
passed.
can always pass a resolution at a regularly scheduled public
so
meeting.
someone could make a motion tonight So is Russ right, that it's still, it's on table?
It's really, that's a distinction without a difference, because
All right,
once it,
so someone can make a motion tonight?
this goes for anything.
You started this.
Right.
You could use, if you wanted to use something that's not, unless it's a specific state statute that requires certain notice or certain things to be done, you can have a resolution at a meeting, unless your bylaws prohibit it.
All right, so we'll wait till we close to the public.
Oh, I appreciate it, thank you.
Hi.
Hi, Ann Cedar, 33 Winding Ridge.
What is your address?
33 Winding Ridge.
33, I was trying to get a last one.
Yeah, 33. I wanted to thank you for requesting the apology. I thought that I watched the meeting last time. I couldn't come, and I thought that was really.
I'm going to ask every meeting until you get it.
I appreciate that. You know, that meeting, I know you guys remember it. That was my first town council meeting. That was the first meeting I attended, and obviously now I'm going to continue attending.
Thank you.
And the thing that really shocked me at that meeting, it wasn't that behavior that I received. Listen, I'm not a wallflower. That's not gonna hurt my feelings, and that's fine. What shocked me was that every single person on this committee, except for the mayor, let him talk to me that way, as a resident, not a woman, as a resident. And to me, that was shocking. Nobody said a word to him to stop him. Nobody said anything afterwards. Nobody apologized for his behavior. You just let him do it. And then he did it again at the last meeting. That entire speech that he gave during his committee meeting, it had nothing to do with his committee report. And you let him do it. And I'm piggybacking off of what these two gentlemen said. You guys really need to pay attention. The demographics of this town is changing. The people that voted you onto the council, they're changing. People are waking up. There's a lot of talk about what goes on at these meetings, whereas people didn't used to pay attention, didn't even know what time or day that your meetings are happening. That's no longer the case. You're going to see people talking about it. They're going to be starting coming to meetings. People who are not coming to meetings are watching on Zoom, and then they talk about it afterwards. The town is aware, and if you don't change, you're going to lose the votes at re-election. You are. You're not representative of the town anymore. You're not. So when we've had now 3 back-to-back meetings, and you have residents continuing to talk about the same issue, and it's not on the agenda. Why isn't it on the agenda? It's clear that the town cares about it. It's clear what the town's position is. We voted for legalization. That's not the issue anymore, right? So when you know what the town thinks and what they want, and for you to listen for 3 meetings, nobody talks. Nobody has made any comments about what we keep bringing up, right? There's been no commentary from the council, which is also concerning, right? But when at least you're listening, I think, how come it's not on the agenda? How come you didn't know that you could bring that up, whether it's untabling or as a resolution? I don't really care which way you do it. How come you don't know that you can do that? If 2 of you had voted voted against tabling it last time, why haven't you guys made the motion to untable it, make it as a resolution? I don't really care which way you do it. Why haven't you done that? Then at least you're on the record for voting the way that the town wants you to vote. The rest of you want to vote no, you'll pay for that at re-election. But you guys have to take a stand, and you have to show the town what you are doing or not doing. It's not up to us to keep coming here and begging you guys to do your job. That's what we elected you to do. I would like an update on the Patriots Way Bridge. I know our board president here is here and spoke, and she said exactly what the issue is, but I want an update. We were told that there needs to be a ton limitation. Nothing's been done. So it's been a month since the last time we had an update. So we just keep driving and driving and driving over the same bridge, but nothing's changed in that month. So what's happening with that? Was it re-inspected? Are we having an emergency repair? I understand there isn't money. I understand we're waiting for the funding, but in the meantime, the bridge is still in disrepair, and we're still driving over it. We still have our kids on the buses driving over it. So tell me, what is the update on that part of it? I don't know if you have the update. I'm looking at you, but I don't know who has the update.
They're not going to give
He'll give an update later.
Okay, but last time you guys told me I was going to get an update, and then the meeting ended. So I want to make sure
You
that
ran out, I was trying to find you.
No, I didn't run out.
Oh.
The first 2 meetings ago.
Oh.
You said you were going to have an update. I waited till the closed session, an open
John,
session. I
John,
asked for it. You said there
John,
wasn't
we'll give
time.
an update.
Okay.
Prom,
Thank
don't
you.
leave. Don't leave. Anybody else?
I'll wait.
Mayor, can I give you these?
Yes, please. Actually, give it to Michael, he's the planning, I'll pass it out to everybody.
Thank you.
I'll make sure everybody gets it.
Great.
Good evening, George Lutfi, 7 Veneer Street.
Could you speak louder?
Yes.
Thank you.
I will make this very short. I understand there's a presentation on the municipal budget tonight. Before you consider to vote and raise any taxes, just please remember Kusala Care's revenue contribution of 2% would really help lower the tax burden on those in the community. It would also help other community needs, such as new equipment for first responders. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I can ask for a motion now.
Before we go further, I should have started, before we went to motion to excuse John McCann from the meeting, he has a work function that is a legal case. So motion to excuse him from the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So John McCann is excused tonight. Is there a motion to, well, it's not considered untabling it. Is there a motion to, whatever the motion is then?
Well, I mean, they would have to make the motion.
Is there somebody who wants to make a motion about the cannabis licensing in town? Nobody
So
wants to
moved.
make a motion.
I moved.
Is there a second? Oh, but he's saying it's not. So I'm getting two conflicting
what's the-
stories. A motion to approve the untabling of the resolution. So there's a motion to approve the untabling of the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a resolution, we can talk.
Well, take it off the table requires a 2/3 majority.
All right, so roll call.
Council members Kamala,
No.
McCann, absent, Pignatelli,
Yes.
Saliani,
Yes.
Solzinski,
Yes.
Talamini.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that.
So now it's off the table, so now we have
Do we
a...
have the original resolution?
Do you have it, hand? It's on the, it should be on the computer.
I would have to fill that out.
I would advise pulling it up if you could.
And then you can read the resolution. While you do
So we know
that,
what we're voting on.
while we do that,
Thank you.
while he's doing that, we have minutes from the February 22nd council meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I would leave it.
Oh, wait.
Because
Oh,
we-
because
this
he's
is on-
pulling. Okay, sorry.
Currently-
I don't have it on me. I'm gonna have
It's
to
not on
look
your
it up.
computer?
No.
Is it on, Richard?
I do not have it with me this evening.
No.
So we can put it on for the next meeting.
Would this be in the borough's website?
Yeah,
Yeah,
would it be on the,
Yeah.
isn't it on the past agenda? What meeting was that from?
Here.
2, 3,
Yeah,
4, 5, 6
Give us
meetings
a couple
ago?
minutes and we'll track it down.
November 22nd, he thinks.
He's gonna find it, he's gonna get it.
Sorry, November 9th.
November 9th. November 9th, Michael.
I just don't want to be vote on something we don't know what we voted on. Exactly.
Now that it's, can we put this on the next agenda? Because there'll probably some research, we'll need to read the application again just to make sure.
You had all the materials,
I had all the materials in, okay, let's
It is,
say whatever
it
it
has
was.
been a long time.
I mean, I've had conversations with people on the
What do you
committee
think?
too, where there's some confusion on the application.
oh, I can read the agenda, and then if they feel they want to adjourn it for the next meeting. I'll read the resolution though, so everybody knows where we are. As he's doing that, as I
I
said.
have it
the
right here. Resolution in support of application for Class 1 cannabis cultivation license in the Borough of Oakland. Want me to email it to you?
I have it right here.
Great.
This is Resolution 22-290. It's in support of application for a Class 1 cannabis cultivation license in the Borough of Oakland. Whereas pursuant to can't see, PI 2021-C16, known as the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Enforcement Assistance and Marketplace Modernization Act, the Act, which legalizes the recreational use of marijuana by adults 21 years of age or older. The Borough of Oakland Borough adopted ordinance 22 codes 872, which allows for a limited number of cannabis businesses to be located in specific sections of the borough. And whereas the act established that the Cannabis Regulatory Commission to oversee and regulate the cannabis industry in the state of New Jersey, and the commission promulgated personal use and cannabis rules, NJAC 17:3-1.1, in addition, August 19, 2021, whereas in order for the cannabis business to operate, both state and local approval are required. And whereas NJAC 17:30-5.1 requires that a municipality's governing body express its support for a cannabis license applicant through a resolution of the governing body. And whereas pursuant to NJAC 17:30-5.1G, the support resolution should indicate that the proposed cannabis business location is appropriately located or otherwise suitable for activities related to the operations of the proposed cannabis business. And whereas the borough's cannabis license application evaluation committee has received and reviewed the application submitted by Casala Care LLC, I can't see what that says, and has recommended that the Borough Council approve application and adopt a resolution in support of something application.
Of their application for the state license.
Line there, for the state license. And be it resolved, therefore, the aforesaid recitals are incorporated herein as though fully set forth at length. The borough recognizes that Casala Care LLC will be operating a Class 1 cannabis cultivation business involved in the cultivation cannabis products, and that the business location will be 27 Moeller Road, Oakland, New Jersey, 074, well, the zip code, if approved by the State of New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission. Approving Casala Care LLC application for a Class 1 cannabis business license would not exceed the limit established by the borough for Class 1 cannabis cultivation licenses located in the borough. Casala Care LLC's proposed Class 1 cannabis cultivation business use and location satisfy the borough zoning and cannabis ordinances. Casala Care LLC shall continuously comply with the borough's ordinances governing cannabis operations and any future applicable changes that may be made thereto. If Casala Care LLC is not in compliance at any time with the borough's cannabis ordinances and any
Future
applicable challenge changes thereto, the borough reserves the right to withdraw its support for their operations and suspend or revoke their local license. The borough approves Casala Care LLC's application submitted to the borough and endorses Casala Care LLC's application to be submitted to the commission for a Class 1 cannabis cultivation business license at the location the borough has set forth above. The location is appropriate and suitable for a Class 1 cannabis cultivation license. The mayor, borough administrator, borough clerk, borough attorney, CFO, and any other necessary official, officer, or employee of the borough be and they are hereby authorized to execute any and all documents and to make any and all actions necessary to complete and realize the intent and purpose of this resolution. This resolution shall take place immediately. And this was a resolution that was first put forth and then was tabled since it was first read. It is a resolution to allow Casala, it's up by the Dewey Electronics, the other side of 287. It's Moeller Road, but you have to go underneath 287 to get to it. It's all the way up where Dewey Electronics is. I know they are leasing property already, and if they do get the approval from the council, if I'm not mistaken, they have to go before the planning board for,
Yeah, they would have to
they
go
would still
to the
have to go
planning
before
board
the
for site
planning board
plan.
for the site approval of the building and everything.
It could be before the zoning board, but only if they built a 200
It's going before the planning board, yes.
Don't they
And
have
that
to
is the
go before the
resolution.
state as well?
Yes,
What?
and they'd have to go before the state.
This
Yes.
is endorsement. That's all it says.
Yes, they have a temp, what happens is they have a temporary right now.
Under the cannabis law, for a medical facility, you do not need municipal approval. For a recreational facility, you need municipal approval.
So right now, they have a conditional license. They don't get their actual license unless it's approved by the borough. So with that, here is the resolution. Is there a motion to approve?
Wow, whoa, how about discussion?
Well, first we have to get it on the table, right?
No, it's on the table, it's for discussion.
Oh, now we're ready for the discussion? No one made
It was
the motion?
4-1, there was a motion to take it off the table, that motion passed 4-1.
Right, but
So
now we
it's
have a
up for discussion.
resolution.
You read the resolution.
Right,
now
but
it's
don't
up
we
for
have to
discussion.
have a first and a second before we discuss? We always do that.
Well, by taking it off the table.
Oh, we
you
still
brought
have it,
back
oh, you
into
brought it back in,
discussion.
okay. It was a little confusing with this tabling. Yes, discussions.
I have, a question for the attorney. It's been brought forward by one of the residents that if we approve this, that Casalo's lawsuit would then be moot, or no? Could they still, if we approve the endorsement, this is an endorsement. This is an endorsement letter to go down to the State Cannabis Commission for review. So we were being, there was a tort claim against the borough for
Yes.
whatever the amount of money is. If we do endorse this and it goes down to the state, does that lawsuit then become a moot point, or can they still sue us?
I mean, it's, in essence, the claims in any lawsuit would be based upon the refusal to take action, the denial. So I can't say for sure that any lawsuit would be.
We still have to go back before a judge? We still have to go to a judge?
To my knowledge, and maybe Mr. Kuntz correct me, I don't believe we've been served with a lawsuit.
We got the tort claim.
So we have a tort,
received the tort
we have a
claim
tort
notice,
claim
and that's as far
notice.
as it goes.
So I can't tell you a tort claim notice basically says, we're going to sue you, gives the town time to evaluate their options. I can't say for sure that anyone won't sue the borough, and I just can't make that representation to you because there's always an opportunity to sue the borough.
So at this time, there's not an active lawsuit.
Yes.
It's just an
And
It's a
Mr.
tort
Kuntz
claim notice that
has
must
confirmed that
be-
we have not, I have not been served with a lawsuit.
The tort claim notice must be served on the municipality before any law claim.
Well,
If they go ahead and sue after the resolution passes, then they would be doing a frivolous lawsuit because they would have the
Well,
resolution.
I'm not going to comment
No,
on a
don't.
theoretical
No, don't,
lawsuit
no.
that may be filed.
No. So that's the answer.
I think that since there is a tort claim filed, before this council takes any action, their attorney and our attorney better have a discussion and be perfectly clear that whatever this council does, that the tort claim is withdrawn before we take any action.
Can't negotiate.
I would say that,
Can you do subject to?
I would say that you could pass in the resolution that the resolution is subject to the removal of the tort. The
Happens all the
endorsement
time.
is subject to the removal of the tort.
Happens all the time in court. I'm a member, I regularly are in court. That happens all the time in court.
Here, you can have my pen. Do it.
Subject to.
Subject to, here's my pen.
Any other discussion?
I'd like to ask, if I understand the ordinance correctly, we were very clear in the fact that they can't use any borough water, okay? And I believe and I pulled up their recycling plan for the water and everything, and it still looks like they're gonna be using 14,000 gallons of water. Does that run in violation to the ordinance the way it's written?
That it's all negotiable.
Yes?
They said that if we had to, it depended on what was discussed. We
Again, I
never got to
would
that
say
point.
you can put a stipulation on the resolution that the resolution of approval, that the endorsement includes that no borough water will be used as part of the application.
Which will help us with sewers.
But, well,
So,
the only thing, there seems to be questions with this. I mean, this was from November. I wouldn't feel comfortable, and not, this is from November. I think
But the
we need to-
resolution hasn't changed, but we could add
but-
subject
but
to.
it hasn't changed, so if they're saying they're gonna use the water, then they're in violation of the ordinance.
Let me go through this. So this is a first step of municipal approval. They would have to go before the planning board. When they submit their application, this is what I do on a normal basis. When they go before the planning board, then they would have to submit all the requirements that are required under the ordinance. They would have to submit ordinance compliance, and then the board engineer would do a review of the application and say, are they in compliance with the ordinance?
But if somebody's coming before us asking for our approval and they're not meeting the requirements of the ordinance, it doesn't make sense for us to give the approval.
But that's not for you
Well,
to decide, it's the planning board.
I'm not talking to you.
No.
I'm talking to the lawyer.
Yes. So whether or not they're in compliance with the ordinance, you're not approving the site plan, because they would have to submit a site plan to the planning board. And then whether that site plan is in compliance with the ordinance, I believe anything they've really submitted to you at this point is more of a concept plan. And they would have to submit a site plan to the planning board that says, we are in compliance with the ordinance, this is how we're doing the water. If, it gets to the planning board and the planning board engineer said, John, are you also the planning board engineer?
Yes.
Yes, I am.
So if it was to
I'm
get to
shaking
John
my
at the
head
planning
with
board,
everything you're saying.
and he would say, this does not comply with the ordinance as far as water. We don't believe that the way that they're routing, this happens all the time. The way that they're routing the water, the way that they're using the water does not comply with the ordinance, then that's something for the planning board to consider at that point, and they would get another vote at that, and our engineer would be looking at the compliance as far as the ordinance.
So what you're saying is we passed the ordinance here as a borough stating that there's no water to be coming in and out. And you're saying send it down to the planning board to override what we said to give them relief.
We never said there'd be no
No,
water.
they still have to be in
No,
compliance
they would have to comply
We said that?
with
the ordinance.
yes,
in the
it's in the ordinance. So what I'm saying is if they present a plan to the planning board that doesn't comply with the ordinance as far as the use of the water, then they're incomplete. And it's a reason for the planning board to deny them.
But
Or perhaps
they're
not.
already coming in front of us, stating that we are going to use 14,000 gallons of water on an ordinance that we said you were supposed to provide your own water. Okay, so how do we get?
So you have two options there. You can either put a condition in that this is subject to them not using borough water, or you can vote down the proposal as saying this proposal does not comply with our ordinance, and therefore we do not give it our municipal approval.
So using that, they would then, so let's play that scenario out, then they can come back with a revised application that would meet the criteria.
Yeah, they could come back with a revised application, but I'm also saying that they would need to submit a site plan to the planning board which complies with the ordinance. If they submit a site plan to the planning board and the way that they're using the water into the facility is not compliant with the ordinance, that's something that's going to be flagged by the planning board engineer, and it's going to either deem their application incomplete and they won't even be able to proceed at the planning board depending on the specifics of it, or it's a reason for the planning board to deny the application saying this doesn't comply with our ordinances and therefore would need some sort of variance relief, design waiver relief, something of that nature.
So we could put in subject to the removal of the,
I have another question.
I'm sorry, I thought you were finished.
So if we do that, right, so let's talk about it.
Could you speak louder?
Oh, I'm sorry.
We can't hear you.
I mumbled. So if we endorse it, then we put everything on the planning board to decide. Right? No.
I don't know if you put it on the planning board to decide the site plan of the application, whether it complies with the ordinance as far as the design of the, as far as the design
We have an
of the.
ordinance on the books. No matter what happens, when it goes before the planning board, we have a very good planning board, and they scrutinize everything. And we have a good planner, we have a good engineer, we have a good attorney on the planning. I'm not saying that you're not. We have a good planning board on the attorney who's been there forever. They will go through the ordinance. They do that, but every site, everything at the planning board, it is scrutinized in details every time. And Councilman Pignatelli can vouch for that from what we went through for the past years and so.
I'm not questioning.
So
I just want to make sure I
if we
understand.
say to them, our ordinance says they have to pay for water from Oakland, they're gonna have to do it. And if they say they're not going to do that, then they're not in compliance, they won't get the approval from the planning board.
I'm actually going a step further than that, Mayor. I'm saying that if they submit an application that doesn't comply with the ordinance, the planning board is not going to deem the application complete, they're not
Right.
even going to hear it.
Thank you for that.
And for
Thank
full
you.
disclosure, as everyone knows, and I said this at the last meeting, before there's any vote taken, Lodi, the first quarter, got a check for $75,000. Second quarter, got a check for $105,000. There, and full disclosure, it is retail, which brings in
I
more
was just saying
money.
that, I don't know if, like,
I
the
understand
services.
that, but they're anticipating a $400,000 revenue for the following year. And they just opened.
But they have retail.
But again,
I
it's not
said,
like for
full
services.
disclosure, also for full disclosure, you all know that we're going to have to deal with water and purchasing of water when we get sewers for the downtown. That is a requirement from the state. They buy the water. That will save us a ton of money. How much do we estimate the water would be? A lot of money. I mean, we're not just talking about a couple of $100s. We're talking about a lot more. It's such a win-win. It's up on Dewey Electronics. Property taxes will go up because now the buildings are being used. Right now, their property taxes are lower because they have empty buildings. Once the buildings are occupied, that's increased property taxes up there. It's on the other side of 287. It is, it's a win-win.
Okay, may I ask a question, Mayor? And this, I hate to put the CFO on the spot here. Have you done an analysis of the potential revenue that this can generate? Have you done any type of work?
We have estimates, we have estimates from the application for what they think their revenue is going to be based upon the type of business that they're doing. It is consistent with other businesses that are proposing that same type of facility and amount of revenue. It is not a significant amount of revenue. My understanding, it's around $20,000 is what we would anticipate annually. $20,000 to $30,000 annually. I'm not suggesting that I don't want $20,000 or $30,000. In my 5 years here and my 10 years beyond that, this is the most difficult budget cycle we've ever been in. So any income is fine, but it's not the answer in its current state. It is helpful, and it seems to be accurate based upon everything else. So it's additional revenue. I'm not going to say no to it. Everybody
Plus
knows I'll
property
take
tax
everybody's
revenue.
money.
And have you done a full analysis which includes how we have to go up and inspect a building, capturing the revenue, our borough personnel's time and materials dealing with this? A full analysis of what they're going to be bringing in, what it's going to cost the town?
Yeah, I don't know what those type things are, so no, I don't.
So we haven't done a full analysis.
Not of that.
But I think that certainly we should have some guidance from our CFO with an analysis of what it's going to cost the borough and what's the net going to be at the end after our time with borough resources and everything versus what's coming in.
You voted yes for the ordinance. I don't
Mayor,
understand
I'm
why you're
asking
questioning it
questions.
now.
Listen, I'm asking questions.
You're obstructing.
We can certainly do that. It's a bit of a guesstimate in terms of what you think it might possibly be because we don't have a real benchmark. We don't typically do that for other applications that, also have those type of impacts. We do a UCC analysis where we talk about what all our costs are versus what our revenues are for fees and permits, and we try to make sure that they're in line. I'm not even sure where I would start with trying to understand what they have to do, because again, we have no benchmark for it.
Right, and that goes back to what our attorney was saying, we're flying a plane while we're trying to build it, and it's a very uncomfortable
Who
position
said
to
that?
be in.
You're the one who says that.
No, that came from our attorney.
No, the marijuana attorney.
Marijuana attorney.
You ever done that analysis for any other project?
No.
No, he said he hasn't done any analysis for any other project.
No.
And no one ever been asked. Is there a motion? Is there going to be?
Well, there's currently, it's off the table, so now you have really three options. You put it back on the table, you can vote on it, or you can make a motion to carry it to the next meeting.
Well, does someone want to make a motion?
Make a motion to carry next meeting so our CFO can get some information together. And
Is
we
there
can
a
also address
second?
the water issues.
That's right.
No second.
I second it.
To carry it to the next meeting?
Yes.
All right, then we'll vote.
Council members Kamala?
Yes.
Pignatelli?
Yes.
Saliani?
No.
Slazinski?
Yes.
Talamini?
Yes, and just, I'd just like to apologize to Matt. I was a little short with you.
No worries.
I was trying to talk to the attorney and I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. Sorry.
All good.
So it's definitely going to be on the agenda next meeting, the resolution. I suggest you have your attorney here.
I'm gonna bring mine too.
You're gonna bring your attorney also? Bring the audience. All right, with that, so this will be on the agenda for the next meeting. Approval of the minutes, February 22nd, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Council members Kamala?
Yes.
Pignatelli?
Yes.
Saliani?
Yes.
Slazinski?
Abstain, not present.
Talamini?
Abstain.
We have appointments to the Arts Committee. The Arts Committee, Erica Nagel wishes to be on the Arts Committee, and it's a one-year appointment. And is there a motion to, for her to go on?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have someone who wants to go on Sustainable Oakland Green Team, Katie Piantini, and it's a mayor's appointment, and I will appoint her to the one-year appointment. Now we have the budget proposal.
Budget presentation. The actual proposal happens when we do introduction and at the next meeting with adoption in public.
Oh, that's going to be the next meeting also with the cannabis?
Next meeting, we'll do the introduction, and then we'll have a public hearing in April on the budget.
Need something harder.
Okay. So,
What would be in the club?
Okay. I just was gonna just make sure that we understand what this is. This is a presentation and discussion for the governing body. It's not an interactive discussion with residents at this point. That happens at the public hearings. You know, there'll be comments later that we can take input from, but during the presentation, it's supposed to be designed as an interactive for the governing body to talk about and analyze what we're presenting for a budget.
And with that, just to kind of take that further, if as we go through this, you have comments or you have questions, or you need clarification on something, just speak up and we'll address it as we go along. And with that, we'll get started. So, we will start just by going over the introduction. We're going to take you through current fund appropriations.
I'm
then-
sorry, what?
A pen, you have a pen.
I got it.
Oh,
Got some
Thank
weight.
you.
All right, then we're going to go through current fund revenues. David's going to provide sort of a snapshot of the financial condition of the borough. So this process is one that starts in the fall when we send out budget request memos and solicit proposals from various departments and agencies. CFO and I then review those, meet with the agencies to discuss their proposals, validate costs, and make adjustments to those proposals as we believe are necessary. We then engage with the Finance Committee. We've had several meetings where we've gone through just what the budget challenges are this year, and we're going to get into that. That's actually going to be a lot of the focus, especially on the appropriation side. And as David indicated, this really has been a challenging budget season, probably the most challenging that I've had here since what we'll call the bad old days back during the Great Recession that former Councilman DePentama knows so well, having been on the Finance Committee at that time. So without further ado, on behalf of the Finance Committee, we hereby respectfully submit to the Mayor and Borough Council the preliminary 2023 municipal budget for the Borough of Oakland. Funding for the current fund budget, including the library, is presented at $23,728,000 with an additional $2,780,000 and $630,000 in appropriations for the water and sewer utilities respectively. The municipal tax levy required to support the budget, including the library, would be $16,475,000. The budget will be compliant with both the appropriation and levy caps. The impact on the average residential assessed home will be a 3.92% increase in the municipal portion of their tax bill, or approximately $114. As proposed, funding in this budget will enable us to continue our present service levels to the public while slightly increasing the number of recreation and senior programs. It continues the ongoing effort to maintain a budget framework that is sustainable in the long run. Where possible, one-time expenditures are matched to one-time revenues, and the use of fund balance is appropriate in accordance with borough policy. We'll be spending some time later in the presentation talking more about that. The impact of capital and debt expenditures are relatively consistent year over year. As you review this document and we have discussion on this year's budget proposal, we ask, as always, that you take a long-term view of the financial needs of the organization and the community. Budget decisions that we make this year, especially on the revenue side, will have effects next year and in the years to come. Next slide, please. Okay. Not going to spend too much time on this slide. This is just a basic comparison between this year's proposed budget and the 2022 budget, showing that the overall appropriation increase at budget introduction would be about 4.38%. And again, that's mostly due to increases in a few select budget lines, which we'll discuss more as we go through things. Next slide, please. Okay. Generally, when we talk about municipal budgets, you're going to hear terms like inside cap, outside cap, and salary and wages and OE. So anything that's salary related, under state budget rules, they get their own budget, their salary and wage budgets. Everything else, other expense, OE budgets, that's funding all the goods and services that we provide to residents. So salaries and wages budgets overall are up 4.69% this year. This includes all cost of living adjustments, longevity increases, and step increases in accordance with existing labor agreements, which run through 2024. COLA increases for top step patrol officers and superior officers are 2%, and increases for white collar, blue collar, and non-union staff are 2.5% or $1,900, whichever is higher. It includes funding for several potential mid-year promotions in finance and DPW and code enforcement. But there are a few of these salary items that I'd like to call specifically to your attention, just so you understand what's kind of going on overall here. You're going to see what looks at first glance to be a relatively large increase in the code enforcement salary budget of $65,500. That's mainly due to reallocating funds from the code enforcement OE budget due to the ending of a shared service agreement with Franklin Lakes. So you're going to see some offset there on the OE side when we get to that. And then one of the most significant challenges that we've been looking at and talking about as we plan for future years as well is how to handle the pending retirement of 6 police officers over the next 2 budget years or so. By 2025, there'll be 6 officers that are going to retire. So we've developed a succession plan for that, and that's been discussed with both the Public Safety and Finance Committees. And just so you understand, there's a very long lead time in hiring a new officer, from inception, background check, going through the academy, doing field training. It's roughly a year from the time that you start that process till that officer is on the road, on their own, and really counting towards effective manpower. All right, so this budget, although the first retirement isn't until early next year, it includes $64,000 in funding to hire 2 additional officers for this year to start that process so that the effective manpower doesn't drop too low next year. And then in next year's budget, you'll see the same sort of cycle to keep up the operational effectiveness of the police department. But so that's why you see those. They're not additional officers. We're actually pre-planning for upcoming retirements.
And just so everybody knows that as we start going through that retirement process next year, those high-end retiree salaries start coming off. Next year's budget actually has the opposite of this $60,000 increase. It has a $60,000 decrease and a much larger one when they're all retired for 2025.
Right.
So this upfront investment has immediate payback and balancing out next year, and then real benefits in future years. But in terms of succession planning, you have to get people in the mix early, especially when 4 of these 6 officers are command staff. So in addition to bringing 6 new people on board, you've got to promote people up to sergeant, captain, chief, and all those. So it really is a very big task on the police department. And while no increase is minimal on a $4 million police budget, you know, this is something that, you know, I think is very important for us to be thinking hard about doing.
And likewise, you're going to see a $70,000 increase in the fund for accumulated absences. That is likewise based on analysis of the funding that we are going to need to cover accrued time payouts for those officers, and we're funding that to make sure that we have enough money on hand for when that time comes. However, that funding or that appropriation is offset by the use of non-tax revenue in this year's budget. So there's no net, there's no tax impact to having that appropriation up this year.
We're hitting up a reserve.
Okay, so once you net out those changes and what's happening there, which are kind of special, it's not the sort of thing you see every year, the rest of the salary and wage budgets are up collectively 2% over 2020. Next slide, please. There we go, okay. Maybe I should get bifocals on it. All right, so we broke the OE spending into 2 different slides here because they're a little bit different in approach. This first page that you see here, these are what we sort of refer to internally as the departmental OEs. These are the budgets for police and fire and DPW and senior services and health and all of the budgets that actually fund the goods and services that are used to provide services and programs to the public directly. Okay. They collectively make up about 1/3 of all of the OE budgets. All right, the rest are going to be on the next slide, and they're the non-departmental ones. Of that, approximately $5 million, not $2 million of that is solid waste. So that eats up the biggest chunk of that. All right, and there's been some inflationary pressures here that we've had to build in, let's say with DPW, just across the board when you're looking at the cost of the supplies that we use. We haven't been immune to those inflationary pressures. But likewise, there are a few things here that jump out. And one of those is garbage, certainly. I think we've talked about this here before. We've talked about how it's impacting other communities. You can see that with Wayne and what they've gone through. As towns recontract for solid waste collection, they're being faced with very large cost increases. And for this year, our solid waste budget is up $186,000 because of the new solid waste collection contract and actually a new disposal contract as well, which is seeing a jump in cost. So that's about a 9.4% increase this year. But I want to point out later this evening, you have a resolution on the agenda to authorize the submittal of a LEAP grant. It's Local Efficiency Achievement Program. That is a state funding source to explore potential shared services. And what we would like to do is get funding for a study to look at a shared service for garbage collection with Franklin Lakes and Wyckoff. So we're going to be, looking at this item in particular going forward and trying to find a way to basically stop the bleeding and stop these cost increases. Really due to the lack of competition in the solid waste collection industry right now. The other thing you should be aware of, the library OE budget is up $196,000. That is tied into the state tax levy formula. It is set by the state. We basically get a notice every year where they apply the formula and say, here's the minimum funding level that needs to be provided to the library. So that appropriation increase is shown in OE, and that's really non-discretionary. That's the amount required by law that the library is to get in funding. Next slide, please.
And just as a note in the summary of that, when you take those 2 line items out, we're talking a 2.2% increase on every other departmental OE that we have in the borough. We're also looking at a consumer price index of 5.9% for the end of December. So take out those two big line items, and we're doing fairly well versus inflation. Again, we're not thinking that any increase is a good increase or isn't painful or difficult to bear, but this is, again, a really difficult budget that we're looking at. For those staring at the small print on the screens, we're going to post this by the end of the day tomorrow, so you will start having the ability to see it, read it, and actually see what we're talking about. So just so you're aware, it will be up there on the website tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Dave. So this slide, again, this talks about all of the sort of non-departmental OEs, legal budget, information technology, and the big ones, insurance, utilities, pension, and the like. So I want to go through some of that. This is up 5.6% year over year. In particular, I want to point out property and liability insurance is up 11%. And this is kind of interesting because the joint insurance fund that we're in was kind of born in the whole JIF system, which has benefited municipalities so greatly, was really kind of born out of an incredibly difficult insurance market in the late 80s, early 90s. And the insurance professionals I talked to, they're still associated. Some of them were in on the founding, and they sort of compare the current market to that market back then. It just from property claims to changes in workers' comp to cyber liability, it's just kind of a perfect storm right now in that marketplace. And I think the JIF over the last couple of years has done a very good job sort of dealing with those. But this year, a lot of that had to get passed along, and we're looking at an 11% increase. However, on health insurance, it's actually comparatively a bright spot for us, if there is such a thing. But our rates were up 5.5%, which is well below market trend right now of about 14%. Due to changes with health benefit waivers and the census count, our health benefits budget only needs to go up by 4%. And that's in stark contrast to the towns that are in the state health benefits plan, where they're facing over a 20% increase. So our membership in the BMed, which was designed in part to sort of smooth out those sort of peaks and valleys in rate differences and spikes in rate increases, I think continues to pay dividends for us here, because I'm mentioning it, but this is really not one of the main cost drivers this year compared to some of the other things we're looking at. Let's talk electricity. The utility accounts overall are up 56%. We were actually able to realize a decrease in the vehicle fuels budget after a large increase last year due to the spike in gas prices. But electricity costs are up by about $86,000 or so between electricity and street lighting costs. And that is primarily due to a BPU rate increase that was awarded to Orange and Rockland in the fall. And that is even taking into account all of the changes we have made with LED lighting and energy efficiency improvements over the last 2 years through the PSE&G and direct install clean energy programs. So that could have been worse if we hadn't availed ourselves of that program. And then lastly, and most significantly in terms of a single item, PERS and PFRS, those are the pension systems that the borough is part of, that every municipality is part of, and that's for civilian employees and police officers. They are up 15%, or a combined $225,000, and that's far above the 2 or 3% that you would expect to see based on year-over-year changes to payroll. No reason was given by the state, and so everybody understands we get a bill from the state on what we owe them. That's not something that we can defer payments on the way the state can and has for decades until the last couple of years. So they send us a bill, say pay this by April.
April 1st, it's due in 3 weeks.
April 1st, and that's it. We hope that doesn't continue, but we really don't have any indication as far as what that may prove to be or not be for next year yet. All right, as with the salary and wage and the departmental OE categories, once you kind of control for these few extraordinary issues, everything else is increasing by about 2%. And that includes capital and debt, and we will be presenting the draft capital plan to you at an upcoming meeting in the near future. Next slide, please. This is really just to kind of recap what we've been talking about in terms of the key drivers to this year's appropriation increases. So to recap, there are 8 line items that are accounting for about 75% of the increase in appropriations, 6 of which are contractually or statutorily driven. And everything else accounts for the remaining 25%. So that's where we are in the appropriation side. I do want to just take a moment to thank the agencies and the departments who really, year after year, and this year is no different, you know, they, I think, really have taken to heart, and we've kind of refined the process over the years, you know, so they understand my approach and they understand David's approach to budgeting, and they're not coming in asking for, you know, pie in the sky appropriation requests. You know, when they come in with a figure, it's something that they really think that is necessary to provide a given level of service. And then we have conversations from there, and we talk about alternative ways of doing things, and if they can make do with a little bit less, or actually I think in 1 or 2 cases this year I said I think you need a little bit more, which was a very weird position for me to find myself in. But you know, that's sort of the process, and they do a good job year after year after year, and I just want to recognize them for that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to David for the next part of the presentation, and he's going to take us through the revenue side.
And some of those people and departments are out there as well. Mike always does a great job with the rec budget and how that comes in and how organized and well put together it is. And Neil. The other side of our appropriations budget is the revenue side. That is how we're going to raise the money to pay for the appropriations. There are 4 streams for our municipality in terms of generating revenue. We have taxes, of course, delinquent taxes, which are not big for us since we do an accelerated tax sale. We really collect all of our tax revenue in the calendar year that it's designed to be. We have surplus and we have miscellaneous revenues. As there's a 4.38% increase on the appropriation, there is a 4.38% increase on the revenue side. We look at a very high level. 10 years ago, about 76% of our budget was supported by taxes. This year, we're actually down to 73% supported by taxes. Most of that change is in surplus. That, unfortunately, is not sustainable. We've had a couple good years where we've generated some additional funds, allowing us to use additional surplus. We'll talk about that as we go through the next couple of slides. But we really tried to focus this year's budget on doing anything that we could to minimize current year impact to your taxes while not pushing it down the road so you had a big increase in a couple of years because we did something with the numbers, which we try not to do. So again, the impact to the resident and the average resident is going to be about 3.92%, and we'll go through how that's impacted by the other revenues over the next couple of slides. Non-tax revenue. Surplus, that's our use of fund balance. We generate that in a variety of different ways. We'll talk about our process for how we manage that. That's up slightly, about 3.7% over last year. This is the highest level of surplus we've ever utilized in the borough. And again, we're doing that because we're fortunate to have a little bit of an increase in available funds, and we're trying to minimize impact on taxes. Local revenues, this is your fees, your permits. We have deals for cell tower usage and radio. So that all fits into your local revenues. We're pushing that up significantly, about 17%. A big piece of that is in rec revenues. They've got some increase in fees and increase in programs. On the other side, that's got an offset in appropriations. Rec is relatively neutral expense to revenue. And in interest, well, it's not great that the feds are raising the interest rates. If you're buying a home, it's good for me because a year ago I was getting 0.25% on our deposits. Now I'm up over 2.25%. So my interest revenue is up, so we're anticipating more of that this year. Energy tax receipts, slightly up. There's a municipal relief fund that they gave us that will go away next year. It's about $68,000 more. Again, I'll take it. Uniform construction code, that's up a little bit. It's getting closer and closer back to 2019 pre-COVID levels. Grants is always an interesting one. While it may look like it's down a little bit, it's really not. We can only put into the budget the grants we know about, and usually by the end of the year, if you can see the slide, and we pull it up online, we go from usually around 125 or 150,000 in anticipated. In 2021, we were over 550,000 realized by the end of the year. Last year, we were about 460. And that's just the grants that we do inside of the grant fund. We also get lots of grants for water projects, sewer projects, and capital projects, which show up elsewhere. I'll give, kudos to Mike. Mike does a really good job of chasing down, finding, sourcing, and managing our grants for us. Other special line items of revenue, that's kind of reserves. It's special things, unique things that we do in the town, operational transfers from other utilities into the current fund. That's up slightly, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So that's high level on non-tax revenue. On the next slide, I'm going to dig a little bit deeper. We had a good year, a really good year in non-tax revenue last year. We put $900,000 back into our fund balance, which we then can use this year in this year's budget. And we talked about where it is. A lot of our revenues are getting back to 2019 levels, so we can now anticipate them there. But we had two big hits. We had sold some property to the tune of about $440,000, and we had some significant municipal liens redeemed. So that kind of hit our delinquent tax revenue. We don't usually get those. We did some foreclosure things, we did some communications, and we got some people to finally pay off some of their local liens. We're not going to see that $540,000 this year. We're actually anticipating a lot of revenues at a higher level than last year, so that excess we had last year, we're now assuming. So we don't think we're going to anticipate or overachieve anywhere near as much next year, which means we're only putting $230,000, we think, into surplus, which means for a future year's budget, you have less to utilize. The big places where we're increasing, again, are rec and interest on investments. Most of the other ones are relatively flat considering the size of those budgets. Surplus. The borough has a surplus policy, which we are in compliance to. If you look at the top section of this, it talks to where we are now.
Hold up, Mike, next slide.
Thank you. We know where we are for 2022 actuals, what we replenished, what we utilized. We know what we're going to use this year in terms of 1.9 million. That's inside our policy. It's compliant. We can afford it. We've got the extra money there at the moment. As we look forward, we have a pretty good idea about next year. We know based upon what we put into our reserve, how much will lapse. We have a good idea what we'll do with things because it's this year and relatively in the near future. Next year, if we wanted to use 1.9 again, we could. So again, that's a good news for where we are in terms of taxes for next year, being able to use that much. Our challenge comes in 2025. In 2025, if we forecast forward, it looks like we'll be about $150,000 short in our fund in terms of what we use this year. So we either got to find another source of revenue, or we got to reduce expenses. And then the same thing again in 2026.
Maybe that marijuana thing I should do.
They could. But there are things in the budget that will lapse. We try to use one-time expenses versus our appropriations from surplus. The accumulated absence fund, we don't have to fund at those levels in 2025 because a big chunk is gone. We've got a 5-year reassessment that eventually will fall off. The 5-year ACO will fall off. So while that scares me a little bit and having that much less revenue to use, I don't think it'll have a direct impact on taxes. I think there'll be other things that might, but not the surplus. Statutory. The state requires us to be compliant to 2 statutory caps, one on the levy, one on the appropriations. We will be compliant to both. We will, in both cases, be using some of our cap bank. The state does recognize that while it's a 2% levy cap on certain items, they understand that some years it might be 2.1, other years 1.8. They let us average that out and bank anything we don't use. So we're using a little bit of bank from the tax levy, and some of that will roll forward. We'll be using a lot of the bank, most of the bank from the appropriations, but that all lapses this year anyway. Future year budgets, we look at the budgets over the next 5 years. while we project budget increases of 2.4 to 2.9, that doesn't necessarily equate to a tax increase for a lot of other revenue streams that fall in and out of that. But in terms of our appropriations, we think we're looking in much better shape over the next 3 years than we are now. This familiar slide for most, the distribution of your total tax bill. The municipality is 23%, the library is 2%. That 25% seems to be fairly standard for the municipality over the years. Your schools in your county, you know, are driving the majority of the local tax bill that we collect. Open space, while it says 0, is really like 0.5, but again, that's a very small portion of the total tax bill. So again, the impact of all the things that we've looked to, maintaining the services and dealing with the increases that we have on the appropriation side. For the municipal portion, impact to the home was 3.92, or $113.51 on the average house, assessed at $551,000 this year. The library is going to add 32, and I don't anticipate that the schools are going to come in flat. They're feeling the same pressures on budgets and expenses that we are. So I would imagine that, you know, I've got it forecasted here as a 3-year average. We won't know for a couple months yet where they all come in. I have had a conversation with people at the county. Their budget is a real challenge. You know, so their budget increase is not going to be a small one either. So it's been a tough year, but this allows us to maintain those services now, and it keeps us a pretty stable, manageable budget for the next 3 years. So that's current fund. We went through it as relatively quickly as we could, and I know most of you have seen some portions of this and had a chance to discuss with us, but any specific line item or detailed questions from the governing body?
So I know we have other towns that we're comparing to, and you've done a good job based on the cost index overall. How do you see us comparing as other towns our size? Oh, my God. Sure. I mean, are we being able to see how we're comparing other like towns?
In terms of proposed tax increase?
Yes.
I can just tell you, speaking with my colleagues in Northwest Bergen County, it's a wide range depending on their particular circumstances, but we're all facing some amount of the same subset of challenges, whether it's pension, garbage, health insurance for a bunch of them, because there are a lot of those towns that are in the state health benefits plan. And it was ranging between 2.5% in 1 or 2 towns, up to 7-8% in a few others. A couple were at 5, a couple were around where we were. So that was kind of the range.
And is there any degradation of services to our current residents with this budget?
No, not at all.
So, and just with you mentioned the health benefits, the state increased significantly this year, you're saying, and we're not a part of that now. So
Correct.
This was a conscious decision of ours? Was this an accident that we're not in the state plan? I mean, how did that come about?
This is a long story. We've been in the BMed now for about 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not wowing that.
What's that?
Never mind. No, I wasn't wowing that.
Okay. It's wowable though.
It is wow.
Before that, Russell, we were completely self-insured, and we were experiencing some negative effects of that at that time. Challenges with reinsurance, challenges with shock claims and stuff. And so we spent 2-3 years planning on a move away from that. And that's how we wound up joining the health insurance fund. It was the best option for us. It was the most flexible in terms of plan design. And the sort of shared risk funding model with it was a layer of responsibility on top of that, right? Because there are individual changes to your assessments based on your own performance. Was probably the best approach, and it's worked out well for us over the last decade.
I mean, Yeah, so we're always looking into that. I mean, like, is there, it's just, as long as we're paying attention, because I mean, obviously, I don't want to say that the other towns weren't paying attention, but it seems like they weren't paying attention. And
I will tell you that towns that were in the state health benefits plan, there have been a number of them that have solicited proposals from the BMed. And the BMed, in some cases, was still higher. In other cases, it was lower. One of the issues with the state health benefits plan is everything is cookie cutter, everything is same across the board. Whether you have a great consistent loss ratio or a horrible one, you're paying the same premiums. So when you look to leave and they're individually rating you, you may do better, you may do worse.
okay.
The bigger issue with the state health benefits plan is it was playing a lot of, I think, budget games over the years, the same sort of things that we try to avoid here at the local level, to mask and tamp down increases artificially. And I think they kind of ran out of options for doing that. And with COVID and just marketplace adjustments and the ability to not really do that anymore, this all hit in 1 year.
All right,
for them.
thank you.
Mr. Coons, just a question about solid waste.
Sure.
Obviously, it's up dramatically over the last couple of years, and you had indicated that you received a grant. You're going to be working with Franklin Lakes, Wyckoff, and Oakland to come up and look at creating utility to help cut these costs.
So we're going to be applying for a LEAP grant, which is a shared service initiative by the state, and that involves basically applying for funding to bring in professionals to conduct a shared services study that would look at what the feasibility and potential advantages of doing a shared service for garbage collection with our 3 towns. Whether that still be on an outsourced basis or whether that's a service that we would take in-house, what manner of collection, how we synchronize our service levels, all of that, what we envision is all of that would be part of the scope of the study.
Would that include recycling?
Recycling collection, potentially, yes.
Do you think that report will be, when do you expect that report to be done?
I don't know, because I don't know how long it's going to take the state to make a funding decision on the grant.
Okay, because I mean, obviously, these are significant numbers year over year, and quite frankly, the State Attorney General's office doesn't really give a damn about
No.
the price fixing that's taking place with the garbage industry. And I think, we're at a point now where either we bring it house or we start partnering with other municipalities if the state's not going to take any action.
Right, and those are the sort of options that we're looking at. I can tell you this is the first year of a 3-year agreement. Years 2 and 3, if you recall, we'd asked for pricing for 5 years. We thought pricing in years 4 and 5 were too much of an increase year over year, so we awarded a 3-year contract. The price increase is much more manageable and modest for next year, and in the 3rd year of the contract as well. So whatever we do, we're going to see how far we can get during the current contract term.
Thank you.
So then we make a motion to move.
Do you want us to go through water?
Water, I'm sorry.
Water and streets. No motion.
There's no motion, there's just presentation.
Right, okay. Then if there are no other questions on that, we can move ahead. We'll talk relatively quickly about the utility budgets and then the next steps. So Mike, next, there we are. Water utility. All right, so water utility appropriations this year, and for those of you that may not be familiar with it, both our water and sewer utilities are what are called self-liquidating. They're not part of the tax base. They are separate budget funds that need to be supported by basically fee revenues from the users of that commodities. So water utility appropriations this year are down about $210,000. That's about 7%. However, that's due to a reduction in a capital outlay to fund the prior year ordinance that we were required to put in last year's budget. Once you kind of exclude for that, utilities and insurance are all up over 30% for the same reasons that they're affecting the current fund and they're affecting other municipalities. And the main operating account is also up 30% or so as we start to account for the expected operations and maintenance impact for the PFOA treatment process. There will be ongoing O&M costs for that, and we're starting to build that into the budget model as well. David, you want to talk about the revenue side of that?
Sure. On the revenue side, the governing body did do a rate increase at the end of 2022. So the rates went up by, I think, $4 on the, or $2 on the base, and then same on some of the rates. As we are trying to manage the Water Quality Act, which was put in place a few years ago, we're required to do so much infrastructure over such and such a period of time, and we're slowly trying to ramp up to that level of maintenance and replacement of our, infrastructure. So that revenue is going to be up slightly. We've got revenues down slightly in terms of utilizations of reserves and surplus. So this budget, no issues in terms of self-managing. There is money that will be in here for additional capital projects, which will make part of the capital plan for this year. And there will be money available as we get into next year based upon the budget process to start paying for the debt of the PFOA treatment, which will be done at the end of this year, and we'll start paying for over the next 30 or so. On the sewer side, we have what looks like a big budget increase of 17.9%. That's all capital and debt driven. We again had some prior year ordinances from some time ago that needed to be funded and paid off. We've also got a little bit of interest in here. We do have a short-term note that we're working with the New Jersey I-Bank to pay for the sewer project before we go to permanent financing. There's interest on that we have to pay down this year, so that's why those two came up. We're funding that, if you look at the next slide, out of an increased utilization of some of our reserves. So the impact to the sewer user is no change, no rate increase on the sewers this year, so everything is going to be flat on that side from the residents' perspective. So both those budgets, very good shape, solid long-term and short-term.
Okay, so let's talk briefly about next steps. If anyone still after tonight has comments, proposals, questions, suggestions, please reach out to David or myself or members of the Finance Committee. The schedule going forward would be to introduce the cap rate ordinance and the budget at the next meeting on March 22nd. And then pursuant to state budget law, a formal public hearing has to be held about 28 days, well, at least 28 days afterwards. And then that and budget adoption can be scheduled for the April 26th meeting. So in a nutshell, that's where we're going. And that's the budget timeframe from here on out. And as David had indicated, this budget presentation will be up on the website by close of business tomorrow. And once the formal budget is introduced, that document will also be put on the website at that time. And that concludes our presentation for this evening, Mayor.
Anybody want to say anything on the council?
No, thank you for the presentation. We know how much hard work you put into this, and Russ and I enjoyed working with you on the preparations. So
All right,
appreciate
so
that.
the resolutions. We'll do it as a consent agenda. All these items we discussed ahead of time. Resolution 23-105, and if you want any pulled out, you'll let me know. 23-105, consenting to the proposed Northwest Water Quality Management. That's called the WQM Plan Amendment. And it was prepared by Boswell Engineering. This is 105. 106, 23-106, authorizing a shared service agreement with the Borough of Bloomingdale for street sweeping services. We received a proposal on December 27th, dated 2023, 2022, from the Borough of Bloomingdale, and it is that Oakland will pay the Borough of Bloomingdale the sum of $40,000 annually and $500 per diem for additional workdays for such services with a 2% increase over the course of a 5-year agreement. 23-107, it is authorized a grant submittal to the Bergen County the fiscal year 2023 Mini Clean Communities Program for 2023 Borough Team Up to Clean Up Program in the amount of $300. 108 is to authorize the grant submittal to the Bergen Municipal Employee Benefits Fund for 2023 Employee Wellness. 23109 is to authorize the grant submittal. Let's see, 109. I have 109 here. Contract to Cleary, Jacoby, Alfieri, Jacobs, LLC for professional attorney services for Brian Chakowski, and that was for the short term of $20,000. 23110 is a contract for Cleary, Jacoby, Alfieri, Jacobs, LLC for professional borough attorney tax appeal services, Brian Chakowski, and that is for the year 2023. Not to exceed $30,000, and the CFO has certified funds are available. 23111 is an authorized agreement with Bergen County Utilities Authority for certified recycling professional annual recycling tonnage report preparation services. And the borough wishes to appoint an expert for the 2022 tax appeal assistance on same, and that is what this is on 23111. 23112 is to award contract to Andy Roth Esquire for professional borough alternate prosecutor services for January 2023. This is for the 1 month for $1,800. 23114 is to award bid to Calgon Carbon Corporation for granular activated charcoal treatment equipment, and it is to for 3000 GSK Drive, Boone Township, Pennsylvania. They had the lowest responsive bid for $1,044,091. That was the lowest bid. 23115, authorized grant submittal for the fiscal year 2023 State of New Jersey Department of Community Affairs Local Efficiency Achievement Program, the LEAP program, for flow, solid waste, and recycling collection feasibility study, and that's what we just discussed, and that is for $150,000. 116 is to authorize a refund of taxes to Lindsay Struck, 213 Rampo Valley Road, Block 2302, Lot 12, and that is in the amounts of, it's not on the resolution. Where's the resolution? $298.84. CFO certified funds are available. 23117, refund of taxes to John and Deborah Zola, 164 Long Hill Road, Block 3001, Lot 9, for $785.44 for overpayment of taxes. 118, authorized refund of taxes to Laurice Parkins, 151 Page Drive, Block 3601, Lot 10, $311.51, overpayment of taxes. 23119, authorized grant submittal to ARP Community Challenge for Oakland Senior Center Mobile Computer Lab and Audio Visual Upgrades Project, and the borough wishes to submit an application to help fund the project. 23120, award contract to Altitude Unlimited Limited for IT managed services for 2023. It is for the borough's main network, police network, and fire department. Has a state contract, services required at annual cost not to exceed $49,446, and our CFO has certified funds are available. And there's one, I didn't read these two. 23113 is to authorize the 2023 temporary budget emergency, which is a resolution adopted by 2/3 of the vote of the full membership to make emergency temporary appropriations for any purpose for which appropriations may lawfully be made for the period between the beginning of the fiscal year and the adoption of the budget. That's yours. And for 108, authorized grant submittal to the Bergen Municipal Employee Benefits Fund 2023 Employee Wellness Program, and that is $10,000. There any pulled out? If not, a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmembers Kamala?
Yes.
Pignatelli?
Yes.
Saliani?
Yes.
Kuzinski?
Yes.
Palomini?
Yes.
We have an introduction of an ordinance, 23 Code 901, an ordinance amending the code of the Borough of Oakland related to fees for rain barrel program. Is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call.
Councilmembers Kamala?
Yes.
Pignatelli?
Yes.
Saliani?
Yes.
Kuzinski?
Yes.
Palomini?
Yes.
And when will the hearing be?
March 22nd.
It'll be a busy night. You can read this ordinance on the website, and they are available. Work session. Mr. Kearns, proposal for construction inspection services for Acorn, Birch, and Florence Avenues water main improvements project.
Yeah, this is one simple issue for this evening. This project, which is actually underway, completes the rehabilitation of the water mains in the Pleasure Lane neighborhood. It's partially funded by a community development block grant, and this is for Boswell to provide the construction administration and inspection services on the project. And we would just do a resolution at the next meeting.
Weren't they going to do at the time, talk to the feasibility of adding water to Island Terrace?
Yeah, that was, it wasn't something that could be included in the project when we did Doty Road, due to the grant funding and timeframes of that. It is something actually that I just had a conversation with Joe and Gleam about, and I'll be talking with Giselle about, so that we can start following up on that.
So it's still open for discussion?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And I was told to remove the following. Proposal for engineering services for drainage. That's all?
Yeah, for tonight.
Any new business? Any old business? Borough Council, Councilman Kubala.
Got Palomini.
I didn't see you. You're hidden.
He used to sit here.
And you were quiet.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Let me just say thank you to Mr. Young and Mr. Coombs for all their work and everyone that helped on this presentation. I'm sure Michael had a lot to do with the slide presentation. And a lot of work goes into the budget. It's not just something that gets put together overnight. It's a long process, and you see that we're looking out many years to try and keep the taxes as stable as possible. It's difficult putting together the budget and knowing how everybody's hurting and everybody, you know, it would be nice to lower everyone's taxes, but we have bills just like everyone else, and we're doing the best that we can. But I just want to make sure that I say thank you to everyone that participated in that. And then public events, just come out and join the committee. We could always use some help. I guess the next thing is the Easter egg hunt, and it'll be at the library as always. We're working with Access for All, and there's going to be a separate little event for them. They're trying, and then.
Do you have a date?
April 1st.
April 1st. That's right.
It's not a joke.
Yes, it's April Fool's Day. But we'll when it gets closer, we'll announce it some more. And like I always say, I'm always dressed warmer on at the Easter egg hunt than I am at the Christmas tree lighting. So dress warm for the Easter egg hunt. That's it. Thank you.
As the school liaison, do you have any information about the school budgets? How they're doing?
No inside information.
And maybe you can let us know, how they're doing.
Going out.
Sure.
All right, that's it?
That's it.
Councilman Kubala.
Thank you. For the Oakland and Arts, just a reminder for everybody, you're invited to apply to showcase your talents for this amazing event, June 9th through 11th, 2023, down at the Veterans Park. We're looking for residents who are musicians, singers, bands, magicians, dancers, comedy artists, photographers, mixed media, storytellers, sculptors, crafters, makers, and more. For more information, register at artsinoakland.com. I see Miss Levy's over here. Also, the poetry contest, remember to submit your own original poetry contest submissions by Monday, March 20th, 2023. The winners will be announced on Friday, March 24th at the open mic night at the Real Graves in the Copper Tree Shopping Center. For the Green Team, there was a joint meeting between the Green Team, Councilor Pignatelli attended, the Environmental Commission, Shade Tree. Talked about a bunch of various projects, including planting trees in Stewart Woods, pollinator gardens, both on town property, encouraging residents to plant pollinator gardens, other recycling projects. And the Green Team will be hosting a pollinator plant sale sometime in the spring, and the community garden membership opens this Friday. Planning board, we have a planning board meeting tomorrow as we're still advancing the downtown streetscape redevelopment and several ordinances, creating committees for both the historical and architectural, and I'll keep you posted as we go through the process. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilman.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. For the first aid squad in January, there were 88 calls, miles driven 3,605 miles. In February, 82 requests for services, we drove 1,232 miles. For the Environmental Commission, they did discuss the PFOS. One of the members had a filter system put in, works fine. Chairman Heyman will look at the website and update the info on PFOS. Environmental Commission will be developing a park management plan for the Great Oak Park. Pollinating gardens, the Commission is applying for free kits, possibly for schools, etc., and possibly in Stewart Woods. Open space, they want to create a map concerning all the open space in town, and then look possibly for a grant for a consultant through Green Acres. The Environmental Commission is endorsing the Park Commission for Bush Plaza for the Anject grant. April 29th at 9 a.m. is the town cleanup. They'll be probably concentrating on Great Oak Park, Stewart Woods, and the boat launch area. April the 15th at 9 a.m. The Environmental Commission Green Team and Shade Tree is meeting to discuss Stewart Woods, and they're starting to work on the carnival display, possibly on developing pollinating gardens for residents, and information on lantern flies, which is going to be another problem this year. That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. For the Oakland Communications Commission update for tonight, we had a meeting this past Monday night. Been asked to mention that the various committees are still in search of volunteers, particularly for writers, editors, and photographers for the newsletter committee. And the television committee is looking for people, especially those with editing experience. If interested, you can contact Chairman Ryan Schwertfeger at occ@oakland.nj.org. Also, if you'd like to learn more about this great group, the next meeting is on May 1st at 7:30 here in Council Chambers. For my library update, coffee and coloring is starting again and will be held on the first and third Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Qigong continues on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. No registration is needed. On Thursday, March 23rd at 6:30, they will host Remember the Ladies, an in-person lecture in which the contributions of women in the American Revolution will be discussed. Please register in advance for this event. On Sunday, March 26th at 2 p.m., they will host classical guitarist Alfredo Festa live on the library stage. Also, please register in advance for this. The OPL will also be adding Comics Plus. This is an e-resource that provides unlimited digital comics and graphic novels. This product will be available on or around March 15th. That's all I have for today.
Thank you, Councilman.
All right, so I'll start with the Recreation Commission report. So set your dates now. The parade is going to be June 3rd, and we'll be working with the Public Events and Chamber of Commerce to make it even better than it is last year. It's actually, I guess I'll say it's once every month going forward. It's one of the best days. So 1 of my years on the Rec Commission, and now, you have 300 kids, we judge banners. It's one of the best days to come down and support the town of Oakland. Summer camp signups are underway. An open camp is a hard cut date of 3/31. Other signups for other sports are all at the oaklandrec.org website. Please go there and register for any sports. Also, we have T-ball season and coming up in spring sports. It's time to make sure if you want to be a coach that you get your Rutgers certification. There'll be a course on March 10th. So check the website to make sure that you register so you can coach little ones as you're entering into recreation. From DPW report, storm drains. The Public Works Department finished their inspection of borough-owned storm drains. They completed reviewing 2,622 storm drains. 360 will require repairs, and another 229 will require cleaning, and 108 had new NJDP clean water labels applied. Christmas trees. This year, DPW employees collected just under 1,000 Christmas trees from our residents in the month of January. All trees were tripped and transported to the borough-owned and operated compost facility located on Skyline Drive. For street lighting and potholes, please, if you see any lights out or potholes, call 201-337-8103. This year so far, Public Works has filled more than 275 potholes on residential streets, and we have replaced more than, we replaced 11 streetlights last month. The Bush Plaza, so unfortunately I'm the one who assigned the committees, and I realized I had a meeting at 5:30 and at 8:30 between Shade Tree and Bush Plaza on Monday, so it was a busy day. But at 5:30, we met with Mr. Coons, the mayor, and Mr. Yukemic. We went over the Bush Plaza. So as everyone knows, we received our grant.
Ed Clark.
Ed Clark and Kevin Efferman. Thank you, Mayor, for reminding me. And Tom Conley was there as well.
Yep.
We went through our first draft of the committee proposed what we're doing for the budget. So we received our grant of $127,900, and we put together our first plan of phase 1 and how we're going to funds and start fundraising. It was an extremely productive meeting. We are going to have plans and a proposal of scope of what we do with the work done by the end of the month. So it's all good, and then we'll be reaching out to the community how you can support the project. And our goal is to start making progress this year, noticeable for everyone in town to see. And then Shade Tree, we had a quick meeting on Shade Tree. We're going to be updating our permits. They'll be posted on the website shortly. I believe that happened today. And please, if you need to take a tree down, please follow the process. Go to the website, fill out your application to make sure that everything is done correctly. That's all I have, Mayor.
Mayor?
Oh, sorry.
Mayor, I had one piece of unfinished business.
Go ahead.
Mr. Kimmick, we had asked you last meeting if you could give us an update on what's happening with the gas mains in town and the paving schedule moving forward. Obviously, the roads are in pretty rough shape with all the work and construction that's going on.
All right, so.
And the bridge.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
First question with regard to the restoration of roads that have been done up by PSC&G. There'll be a number of roads getting started for restoration beginning the first or second week of April, as soon as the asphalt plants are up and running and temperatures are favorable for asphalt to be applied. PSC&G still has to do some work on throughout the borough on streets that they've started and have not finished services. Those will be paved later this year, but they'll be starting, I'm going to say, on Dogwood and the streets that they've started first in the beginning of April.
What about Lakeside?
Lakeside is the sewer project, and immediately after the meeting we had 2 2 weeks ago, the mayor and council meeting convened a meeting with the contractor, Oakland Police Department, our inspectors, and had a very good meeting. I expressed to them the anger and frustration of local residents with regard to the conditions of the street, and that they must do a better job. I got assurances from Oakland PD that they would shut the contractor down immediately if they saw an unsafe condition.
Just got an email about a flat tire.
That the contractor was leaving the site in an unsafe condition. We urge all residents to drive at the speed limit and to be careful. PD has given me reports of speeding vehicles.
On Lakeside?
Yes, ma'am. So we're doing the best we possibly can, Mayor. I could have a follow-up meeting tomorrow. Please forward me that email about that flat tire.
Oh, no, I sent it, I told her to contact Kathy Gurney with the proper paperwork on what you do when your car gets damaged from the road. Kathy knows exactly the procedure to follow.
And if I could turn on to the bridge.
Yes.
So we were waiting for a load rating calculation and determination from the DOT consultant that inspected the bridge this past July. I did not get that today. Instead, I got a email from that consultant, which is confusing and requires some interpretation by my structural group. Calls about cordoning off the area. It talks about a 3-ton weight limit. It talks about some shoring, but nothing conclusive in the email. The load ratings have not been completed yet.
Anything you have, if you could get it to me, because I am sending it immediately. I told you, I'm sending it to all our elected officials higher
Yes.
up that could help us.
So
Every day I'm on emails.
Tomorrow I will convene a meeting with my structures group, and we'll get the person on the phone that sent the email to get a better understanding of what they're recommending. Once we receive that and we've discussed it with them, I will immediately convene a meeting with Rich, and if we have to do anything immediately at the bridge to put in place, we're talking about possibly moving some of the lanes off of the problem area. It's a local area that's of concern. So we get some of the loading off of the area, and that with combination of maybe a little bit of shoring. I'm not making any promises, but maybe the load rating tonnage could stay a little bit higher.
All right,
than
well,
what it
we'll
needs to
continue
be.
this discussion.
So we'll continue that discussion. With regard to a question, if plans and specs are shovel-ready, yes, they finally are. The NJDOT finally blessed and accepted the responses to the 100 or so comments they gave us on our plans and specs, and we revised them accordingly. So yes, the project is shovel-ready, and we've done our own efforts with the commissioner. Kevin Boswell from my office has been in contact with the commissioner on a regular basis to earmark some funding for the project. So not only is the mayor trying her best, but our firm, Kevin Boswell, sits on a state committee and is in contact with the state commissioner.
My attitude is, when I was growing up, they used to say, the teachers used to yell, the squeaky wheel gets heard. Every day I am on.
And so, Mayor, I just want to finish with the Ramapo Reserve. Once we very shortly get a full understanding of what the consultant wants us to do, we'll have an internal meeting here with Rich and then with DPW, and then we'll pass that on to the governing body and on to the reserve on what the action is going to be at the bridge.
Thank
Is
you.
the consultant from the Department of Transportation?
Yes, it's Michael Baker and Associates that works directly with the DOT.
Do we have a time frame of when we may have that information? Is there a deadline?
I'm going to say days because I have to act quite quickly on this.
We'll get in touch with
If
you.
there's no definitive timeline set with you yet, right? No.
As soon as we have something definite, we're having a meeting, we'll let you know. When we do the board.
Because my understanding was, do you want me to stand up or can I?
We'll wait till the open portion, okay? Are you finished?
I am finished, Mayor.
All right. Motion to open to public.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Save your questions, Michelle.
Okay, thank you, Linda.
Mike Guadagnino, 34 Hopper Street. And John, thank you for talking about the PSC&G because Hopper Street right now is a war zone. So appreciate you bringing that up. I'm not complaining, I'm saying it's just a war zone right now.
That's first. That's high on the list.
Hoppers before the others.
Well, it's high on the list. They gave me a spreadsheet ready to pave, and it's
Hoppers up there?
Yes.
Oh, good.
All right, thank you. All right. I also want to thank David for mentioning that recreation budget is basically neutral. So I don't want to complain. It's basically neutral. But I have to give all the credit to Neil. Neil does all that work, and of course you guys. But Neil does a great job. Our commissioners do a phenomenal job. And we also work really well with, we do a ton of fundraising, as Steve can verify. And we're able to kind of do things, a lot of stuff just is self-sufficient. I also want to mention too, with the company getting, bringing in $20,000 to $30,000 the first year, that shouldn't be poo-pooed at all. That means they're making $1.25 to $1.5 million. And that's only in the first year. So if they can get that up like they already talked, when I was here, they talked about expansion right away. They can get like, take an example, if they can ever get that to $5 million, that's $100,000. And that's only one company. Our intent was to have more than one company. As they put up this, basically this white envelope in the middle of the woods, as you had mentioned, with all the safeguards, not only the safeguards from in the ordinance, but the safeguards that if they don't do what the ordinance says, it gets knocked down. And all the vote here is about the endorsement. So there's so many more steps they have to go. But I would like to thank the council for releasing the table. I look forward to seeing everybody in 2 weeks, and maybe I'll bring some friends.
Yes, on March 22nd, it'll be discussed again. I encourage everybody to try and read the actual ordinance, so you have an understanding of what they will be required to do.
Or even going back to the presentation, the first presentation, when the two of them spoke on
Well, their attorney
it's on
will be
YouTube.
here at the next meeting.
Cool, thank you.
Oh, she quit, oh.
It's Women's Day.
International.
And purple is royal.
Well, I was told
It's a royal.
purple.
Maine, 187 West Oakland Ave. I got in an argument when I was like 5 years old with my grandmother in the kitchen, and she says, look, she says, you're gonna get more flies with honey than you are with vinegar. I said, Graham, come to the barn with me, I'll show you what manure can do. She slapped me. Okay.
Wait, I'm trying to think of, understand this, right?
Look at all these resolutions here. You see all these resolutions? They're costing us money. This resolution's gonna save us money. If he wants water, give him the water. Give him whatever he wants. It's going to save us tax dollars. I mean, this is not rocket scientists here. You know, if he wants the water, give it to him. It's polluted anyway. You know, and it's...
Thank goodness Dean Tribisani is not here anymore tonight.
3 minutes up.
If you looked at the water cooler out there, I showed him, it's full of green mold.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not.
That's not from Oakland, though.
It's the cover.
It's bottled water.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know where it's from, but it's been there for a long time. And as far as his product is, this is a medical product. We should be worrying about what's going into the schools. His product is safe. What the school kids are getting isn't. You know, God only knows what it's doing to them. For one thing, your brain's not even fully formed till you're 25 years old. These are kids. They shouldn't be having this stuff. That should be what we're focusing on, not somebody that's producing something to help people. And this product is going to help people.
Thank you.
Okay? You guys are going to get everything
I still
together
have to
here?
think about your metaphors.
Okay.
You also
Richard,
keep our own show.
David, God bless you and thank you. The rest of you get on the ball.
Hello, Matt Goodrich, 72 Hiawatha. Just a few things. The downtown development, that I've heard about since I lived here for 10 years. I mean, I worked for the town for 5 years. I can't tell you how many times I saw elected officials and a borough administrator and maybe the DPW superintendent, some cops walking, doing a downtown walk. Here we are. Still looks the same, like Beirut, as I said last time, right?
Yes, it did.
So I'm not really, I mean, there's a whole lot of talk.
Come to the planning board.
No action. And I'm just curious I'm just curious why. Like it always seems like, when it becomes an emergency, we'll spend the money, like when that bridge collapses, we're gonna spend the money.
This is not a debate, but the thing is, let me just tell you what happened. It's been my goal, and I still believe it's going to happen, that we're going to have sewers in the downtown. And in order to have sewers, all of a sudden, we have to pre-plan, because we'll get the developers knocking down our door. So that is the impetus to really push forward with the revitalization and to get a nice downtown. So we have a plan, so when developers come in, there's a plan in that.
Right. And lastly, to Councilman Pignatelli and the two newer councilmen over here, thank you. Thank you for doing what you were elected to do. I'm not sure, I like you guys, I've known you guys for a long time. I'm just not really sure why we want to untable this, and we'll table it till next meeting, so the other councilman who's not here is here. It's just going to be Jerry Springer 3.0. I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, it's money. Republicans love money. You guys love to make money, right? I mean, it's beyond me.
I love money.
And you love freedom of choice and all that. I mean, that's exactly what this is. And I hate marijuana. I'm not going to smoke it, I promise. Because I don't enjoy it. But I mean, it's legal. So if she wants to smoke it, God bless her. I just, I mean, it's tax revenue. I mean, it's just, I mean, I'm still not sure. And maybe you guys could tell me in private, not in public, exactly what Councilman McCann has over you. I would really love to, because clearly it's something. It's absolutely something. I would love to know, because I've talked to officials both locally, county, state. He's a pariah. I have yet to hear one good thing about him, and I'm not sure what it is. I mean, he's a bully in public, which makes me believe he's a bigger bully in private. What is it? I mean, and I'm not expecting an answer, because you're not going to give me an answer, but it's got to be something. So, I'll rest with that.
Go rest.
Frank Pentama, 6 Mountain Lakes. Just a couple of things. I thought I heard at the last meeting, when the issue with the contractor came up, that we're paying Boswell to do supervisory work, and they're supposed to be there at the end of the day. So it sounds to me like that's still not happening. And now that our police are going to be charged with shutting the contractor down, I think we should be getting money back from Boswell. We should stop paying the supervisory services, and let's get money back, because that work clearly is not done. And at a minimum, I don't know the procedure, Mayor, when someone has damage to the tire or whatever. I realize they fill out a form.
There's a form.
Well, I know that, but I'm saying I don't know that if that means the town reimburses the resident or not. That bill should go to Boswell. If we're paying them to do work they're not doing, and they get a lot of money out of this borough, and they're a reputable firm, you need to start holding them to the fire. David's breaking his proverbial
Whatever.
rhymes with glass over there on a budget, and and we're just going to shell out more money. So that kind of needs to stop.
That's an interesting concept, giving you the bill, John.
Well, the taxpayer shouldn't be on the hook. So, we really shouldn't be, because you know what? Then we all wind up paying it, because it goes into the budget.
That's true.
I know there was a question about how our tax rate stacked up against other towns. That really doesn't matter. That's apples and kumquats. It's not even apples and oranges. I don't care if Franklin Lakes is 20%. I don't care if they're getting a rate break of 5%. What goes on there is totally different than what happens in Oakland. I care about what Oakland rate is. And you already heard 2 residents come up tonight complaining about commercial tax rate and her residential tax rate. So I don't really care about them, right? We got to focus on us. Cost estimate of this cannabis business moving into town, where there's no infrastructure changes, nothing. No students going to the schools. We're not adding police. We're not adding more fire people. The road's already there, so we're plowing it if it's a borough road. There's no additional cost. Yet we're going to ask the CFO, who is at the busiest time of his year right now, to take time out of his schedule to do an estimate that he's already told you, I'm not even sure how I would approach it, that's a good use of time. So I just want to point that out. Real good use of that man's time. And last but not least, I find it shocking that Russ would ask the question about the B-Med versus the state and did we get lucky. You've been on this council long enough to know the insurance structure of this town, Russ. You were on the finance committee several times. And if you don't understand that, the voters that are gonna see you running for re-election this year need to pay attention. Because being on the council doesn't mean coming to a meeting up here twice a month, getting a packet, reading it at 1 o'clock or whatever you do. Being a councilman is another job. I've done it, I've sat there. And you can't do it in a vacuum. And the fact that you don't know that, and you've been on this council long enough, it's time for you to go. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Benjamin Good, 10 Concord Lane.
Hello.
And I'm the Junior Commissioner for the OCC.
I know, and thank you.
So I just wanted to give you guys this month's schedule on, we're on FiOS 2145, Optimum Channel 77, and local BTV 75.6. And of course our YouTube channel. So on TV at 1 a.m. every day we have our most recent Borough Council meetings.
At 1 a.m.?
At 1 a.m. every day.
When you can't sleep.
That'll put you to sleep.
Don't worry, it's also on at 7 p.m. every day. We have at 4:30 a.m. on weekdays the most recent RIH BOE meeting. Then at 8 a.m. our CMS&U, that's on weekdays. On weekends at 8 a.m. we have scam and fraud trends. At 9 a.m. every day we have our board buzz program. At 10 a.m. every day is the OLPH weekday mass, or weekly mass. At 12 o'clock p.m. on weekdays, we have the most recent Borough Council meeting. At 12 o'clock p.m. on weekends, we have the most recent RIHBOE meeting. Then at 3:30 on weekdays, we have the CMS&U program. At 4:30 every day, we have our matinee movie, The Man on the Eiffel Tower, for the month of March. 7 p.m. every day, again, the most recent Borough Council meeting. At 10 p.m. we have our scam and fraud trends every day, and at 11:30 p.m. on weekdays we have weekdays we have CMS&U program. I just want to thank you guys for your support of the OCC.
Oh, thank you for your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for telling everybody and scheduling.
Name
Oh,
short.
Michelle wants to speak.
This is a little sugar, okay?
Oh,
Honey
sugar?
this time, no more manure.
Okay.
If you want to, we're going to do the beautification thing. Let's start with the Van Allen house. The grounds, even the grounds need to be taken care of. I'm afraid to pull in and out there of that driveway, so I park over in the big parking lot where the rug store is.
Gaber Brothers?
Yeah. There is another way in. There's a old cement bridge that could probably
You
be
can't walk over
fixed.
that.
You cannot drive it.
That's dangerous.
Yeah, it is. I leaned against the wooden fence and almost fell in. The fence is like
don't do that.
wobbly. But you can get in from 208 also if you put in another driveway there. It was originally, I think, but it's just left overgrown and full of rocks.
202.
202, yeah. Yeah. If you go past the light, it's well, you know where the house is.
There's a wall there, though.
Before the stone wall.
Yeah, right after the stone wall.
Oh, after it, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it would take a little bit of work, but I think it would be a lot safer than pulling out the other
We have
way.
to get the Historic Society, I've talked to Mr. Guns about it, which I was going to say, but something has to be done.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, you guys do a good job. I'm not, you know I love you, Russ. Pat, you know. Richard and David are always putting up with me. But, you know, things really have to get done. So,
We need you to make sure we do it.
I'm coming to the next meeting.
Please, and bring your friends.
Yay.
Hi, Andrea Levy, 780 Ramapo Valley Road. I didn't say it earlier, but I was not here the last meeting, but I was watching very intently with outrage. with utter outrage and talking about it for the last 2 weeks. Outraged. And I want to first commend you for starting to right the wrongs that happened at that time. Taking very nice steps there. We also have not had an official apology, or after an apology negates everything prior to it. That has to happen. It absolutely has to happen, and we have to demand better of everybody. Everybody here, we all need to rise up and be better. And Mr. Talamini, thank you for recognizing that how you behaved before was not appropriate, and you corrected it almost on spot. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. We all need to act civilly towards one another at all times. I don't care what your IQ is. I don't care what your pedigree is. We all deserve to be treated with respect. Okay? I have to say that because the last 2 weeks it's been hanging on my back, all right? But, and to everybody who went before me and spoke, bravo to you. Everything was well said, beautifully, and I echo it. I'm not going to repeat it here. We've all heard it. I don't want to say ad nauseum because we need to hear it, but I'm not going to say that again. What I'm going to go back to is something that I'm a part of the green team, and we just had our meeting, and it was a joint meeting, as was discussed a little bit ago, with the Shade Tree and in the environmental commissions. Well, you would think that we are all aligned, and to a degree we are, but with each a very distinct and different set of things that we're working on. What came of that, I thought, was extremely valuable, is the fact that there are things that we can help each other with, and we can collaborate on. And there were ideas that were bouncing between the 3 different commissions, and it was a good thing. It was a really good thing, and we've come up with some really great ideas and collaborations and whatnot. And what I would like to propose is that all of the commissions and the committees and the different entities of our town periodically meet, whether it be just the heads periodically and then the entire groups, however we want to do it. We need to work together. I feel like each group works on an island and doesn't know what one or the other is doing. And I think this could be a step in the right direction if we do pull everybody together, much like what you're doing with the Chamber of Commerce, Mayor Schwager. I commend you for that, because that is something that is sorely needed here. We need to bring every element of our town together, and this would just be a first step in that direction. And with that, I think, was there one other thing? Oh, and I'll just remind everybody.
Knowledge on the planning board, which you're on.
I am. I am. I'm just going to mention again, the Harlem Magic Masters is at VMS on Sunday at 2 o'clock. Bring everybody out and help support. It's a terrific event for the Mothers Club, which will help support the kids in our town. So thank you very much and have a good evening.
I just have a question. 2 meetings ago, Kevin Boswell was here about the water.
Yes.
And he said that there was some type of emergency action that needs to be taken. I think it was to pre-order some equipment. Has anything been done
Yes.
with that? Was it voted on and taken
Yeah,
care of?
and it wasn't actually an emergency that was declared. We actually went out to bid.
Okay.
We took bids last Friday,
Okay.
and we awarded that bid this evening.
Okay, so that's
That
on.
was on the resolution.
Okay, so that's on track. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Charlie Palmer, 40 Nokomis Ave.
You've been quiet a couple of times.
Yeah, I know. I've been very quiet. I've been seeing Richard every meeting. I've been seeing John every meeting. What's happening with Dalibin Brook? Last July, last August, FEMA and the Department of Agriculture granted us monies, and the council voted it into the budget.
John?
I mean, 2 meetings ago, February 8th, John volunteered, stopped by and told me it was out to bid. I confirmed that with Richard. Last meeting, they're waiting for Department of Agriculture to approve something. So it's not only waiting for the Department of Agriculture to approve things, it's how long do we take to answer the questions or submit whatever they need. So I'd like to know where we are right now.
All right, well, once the public is over, we'll talk.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now John will speak.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
So we sent the plans and specs to the Department of Agriculture. They've commented on it. We received their comments. The sticking point I have right now is permits and how to deal with the DEP permits, because the way our contract was originally set up was the floodplain manager, the former floodplain manager, was going to handle the permits. And I just want to be absolutely sure before I start a project, put it out to bid, and put a shovel in the ground, that we're not doing anything illegal with the permits. I no longer have that floodplain manager to work with to obtain the permits from the DEP or the permits by rule. There are certain calculations that have to be done that the former floodplain manager had a relationship with the DEP. So I no longer have that. So I have to think very creatively on how to push this project forward while not getting the borough in trouble with the DEP. I'll have further discussions with Mr. Coons and my environmental department on how to do this. But repeated attempts to try to get the former floodplain manager to stand by what he committed to do have been unsuccessful.
There will be a follow-up, Mr. Palmer.
Thank you. Mayor, can I ask
Yes.
a question?
Yes.
If we don't
To
have,
whom?
if our floodplain manager's not producing, why don't we just fire him and get another one?
That happened.
We did that already.
Okay, so what's the holdup?
We have to work with the new floodplain manager or a new entity on what the old floodplain manager made assurances that he would do.
So you have to rerun all those calculations and everything?
Well, I frankly, I don't know precisely what he was going to do, but he assured us he was going to get all these permits that would be required.
Okay. Bills to be paid. Councilman Telemann.
Yes. Before I forget, Councilman Saliani had mentioned about the Rutgers course for coaching. Just please, if you have a chance, take the course, coach the kids. It's the greatest thing I ever did in my life. Honest to God. I'm almost done, and I'm getting sad. Coaching my kids was just amazing, and I'm far from an athlete. If you can do it, do it. All right. So bills to be paid: $585,321.83. So moved.
Second.
If you read the bills list, then you can vote. Roll call.
Council members Kamala?
Yes.
Pignatelli?
Yes.
Saliani?
Yes.
Kuzinski?
Yes.
Talamini?
Yes.
And with that, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who said second? Oh. Just before you leave, don't forget to change your clocks this weekend. So if you're going to go to the Mothers Club Magic basketball game, remember, we're moving, turn your clock ahead Saturday night, Sunday morning. And I will see you here March 22nd at 7 o'clock. And it's going to be an interesting meeting.
Aren't they all?
Have a good night, guys.
Hey, maybe.